But at this point, we were playing odds, so we were having a hoot.
At the Bills game, during the tailgate, the loser of this bet would have to first do a cartwheel, second, scream John Travolta, and then third, do a shotgun right in front of a stranger's tailgate. And then I had to do mine. This was embarrassing. Welcome to Backpacker Radio, presented by The Trek, brought to you by LMNT. I am your co-host, Zach Badger Davis. Sitting to my noon is...
Hi, I'm Juliana Chaunce, a.k.a. Chaunce.
Sitting to my 1:30.
Hi, it's Elise.
Sauce is here for
We're
us.
Sauce.
We're going to do our recap of our hike in the Northville Placid Trail. It's been quite the journey, but before we get there, I got a few reminders for you. First is, if you guys enjoy this podcast and you enjoy supporting us even more, head on over to patreon.com/backpackerradio. Are we going to do the rest of your hike, Chaunce, as a Patreon episode?
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Because
Okay.
we can't do it on this one unless we
No.
complicate everything.
It'll make it complicated. Why'd you have to go and make things so complicated? You see the way.
Acting like you're somebody else.
Yeah.
I was going to make him keep squirming.
So 2/3 of the group have done, what do we determine? 100 miles of the or of the trail.
I think.
Yeah, because there's 44 left.
Oh,
And it was like 140.
95.
95-ish.
Yeah.
Most of the trail.
We could just round it out to 100.
Sure.
If anyone's counting.
And we'll get Chaunce's solo recap of the southern stretch on a forthcoming Patreon episode. We've got a wild one in the books that's going to be coming out here very shortly, featuring Lieutenant Cuckoo Bird and Jabba, a.k.a. a Guy Stuff episode.
A Patreon.
What did I say?
No, you didn't.
Oh.
You didn't say. So I just wanted
Yeah,
to make
Patreon
sure.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got some good Patreon stuff. We just did one with John Z recently, so a lot of good stuff in the works. We're going to be doing, I guess, when will this come out? Either it has recently happened or a forthcoming episode of us playing a game of odds en route from Northville to Buffalo, New York. So you'll get a live tasting of how that game works. I've already got some fun odds cooking up, so I think that'll make a fun game for us. But yeah, if you guys enjoy this podcast and you want to support us, please do so via Patreon. You can get involved for as little as $5 per month. And now Patreon offers a thing where you can even get like a 20%, 15% discount if you pay annually. I don't know, but...
Interesting. Do we still get the actual amount, or are we
No.
getting that discount?
we get less money.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Also, if you guys are going to be in the Denver area the first week of December, come to our live podcast. We're going to be doing our second live podcast of the year featuring Kyle O'Grady of Kyle Hates Hiking. That's going to kick off at 4:30 p.m. on a Saturday at the Skylark Lounge. He's going to be unveiling a trail mystery that is brand new content just for this podcast. It's going to be awesome. And then the live podcast is followed immediately by our annual holiday hiker meetup. Bring your ugly sweater. This is an awesome event every single year. I think last year we had 80-ish people. It was a big event. So this one will be even bigger, better, nastier, Christmasier, all the good stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited. It was a great venue when we did the podcast there in April. Nice large space, plenty of bar. They gave us the upstairs for like our group. So it was all hikers. You know, when you're in an area and you're like, who's actually with the people and who are people that are just happening to be here? Wasn't the case.
Yeah.
It was just all hikers everywhere. You knew everyone was there to be there. And I think combining the two is going to make for a fun evening.
Absolutely. And there'll be a live Q&A. They've got the setup there to make that happen. So if you're listening to this and you're going to show up, start cooking up your best questions. We love poop questions especially. Bring them to the podcast. There's a limited number of tickets available. They're $29. I think they were supposed to be $25. But the $29 is like, that's all the bullshit fees are wrapped into that. So yeah, it's what you see is what you get there. But yes, we would love to see your beautiful faces on December 7th at 4:30 at the Skylark Lounge.
Should we also say, like, maybe if you are a Denver local and you are someone that owns folding chairs, slide into our DMs?
Yeah. If you're in the Denver area and you've got a lot of chairs, because we have a limited number, we'll figure it out. We'll have chairs
we'll
for
figure
every...
it out. But just let us know if you have some folding chairs.
Yeah. If you're in the chair business, please hit us up.
That being said, get your reservations in early because there may be limited seating.
Yes.
Also, December 7th is a Saturday, in case you were like me and you're like 4:30.
Yeah. We're doing the weekend stuff now.
Yep.
Lastly, but not leastly, if you're taking on a long-distance backpacking trek next year and you want to get a part of the Trek Circus, head on over to the link in the show notes. We are now accepting blogger applications. We've got some very fun stuff cooking, including getting a blogger on the podcast next year. We'll fly you out, put you up, all the good stuff. And we've got some more stuff in the works. So 2025 is going to be a banner year for Trek bloggers. Hit us up. Okay. Let's go to our recap.
Yeah.
We didn't get a bio for this one, so I don't know how we even introduce ourselves.
It's strange that Rachel wouldn't think one up in advance.
Yeah. Here, I'll just read what she's got. Short guest bio goes here, along with any links to their websites, articles about them, social media, anything helpful. So here we are.
Yep, that's us.
Are we sure Rachel wrote that and I didn't write that?
Did you write that?
I don't know.
Elise wants to take all of Rachel's credit.
Yeah, right.
Elise
just kidding.
New theory. Elise hates Rachel.
Oh my God. What?
She didn't say no.
No, obviously not. No, I love Rachel because now she does show notes. And
Yeah, that's
I
true.
don't have to. And also she's great.
Rachel's great. Okay, let's do the grand introduction of the Northville Placid Trail. Should also say it's also sometimes referred to as the Northville Lake Placid Trail. I see both online. Do you have a preference on one?
I think Northville Placid Trail is the legit one. It's what's on all the signs. It's just a mouthful with the lake part in there.
Yeah.
So they took that out for ultralight reasons.
And they called us
signage. Like the NPT signs look really good.
Yeah.
When with just the NPT.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry.
we
even
were
though it
figuring
is NTP, which is, we'll get to it, but they do it a little bit confusingly. They put the
T in the middle.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the Northville Placid Trail because the southern terminus is where Chaunce's folks live here in Northville, beautiful little town of 1,200 people. And the northern terminus, which is where we started, is in the town of Lake Placid, which I learned was the host of the 1980 Winter Olympics.
Do you believe in miracles?
That's the scene of where it went down, where the USA kicked Russia's ass. Suck it, Russia. Fast and dirty overview. I've seen a lot of different mileages online for this. The tracks that we were following said 134.1 miles.
No, it was 137.
The GPS tracks that we had was 134.1. At least the one that I was using.
But that didn't start at the official terminus, remember?
So we did not start at the train station in Lake Placid, which is, I don't know, is that the official start point? It seemed like there were alternate start/end points.
I believe the official website, I'm not sure what Chaunce was reading, but Chaunce read something that said like the official start is the
Train station.
Yeah. Whatever the number is. We've learned that mapping and routing and GPS is a tricky thing because Elise's watch, which was tracking us GPS-wise, was always a significant number off from what our GPS had. So
Oh, you're right. It does say 134.
Yeah.
My watch was always like a mile and a half, had us a mile and a half farther. But I'm suspicious that's because honestly, like I feel like I haven't seen the sun in like 4 days.
Sure.
So yeah, there's a train station in town that is like a rails to trails, I guess, turned thing where you can rent one of those little pedal cars or whatever on the train tracks, is my understanding of it. But I guess it's a museum too. And so you can the official start is at the train station with a 2-mile road walk to the actual parking lot that leads into the woods. We recorded a podcast episode and started at noon. So doing a 2-mile road walk when we had a car just doesn't make much sense. So we started where our GPX track starts, which is at the parking lot on, what was it, Averyville Road?
I will also say that road, it didn't seem, from what I remember, it was not busy, but it didn't seem like there was huge shoulders.
I didn't feel like I was missing much by not doing that road walk.
No, I saw
No.
everything I would have seen from the window of a car.
Yeah. Let's start off with direction to hike the trail. We got lots of commentary from the hikers that we passed that we were like the only southbounders that
Yeah.
they'd seen. It seems like the traditional way to do this is to hike this northbound. It also seems like, based on what we've seen, the northernmost section is not the easiest or most desirable. So maybe that's part of the reason why people do it that way. I don't fully know why the northbound version is necessarily the most popular, but it is.
I can imagine that maybe people don't want to start with like the most rugged section, but it does feel like there's more uphill going northbound, because Northville to about mile 25 seems mostly uphill.
You can just look at the gain and loss. So this is
Oh.
backwards, right?
Yeah, so there's 1,000 more feet of gain going north than there is south. There's 11,999 feet of gain going north and 10,996 feet of gain going south.
Yeah. So either way you shake it, it's not a very vertical trail.
No.
The section that
Very
I did,
flat.
there was literally one climb. The section that I did, should caveat that. We'll get to that in a second. But the trail is slow moving through certain stretches, and that has little to nothing to do with the actual gain of the trail. Not difficult from a elevation gain standpoint, but it is rugged.
Yeah, the first day was probably worst day. It's factors that went into that. We started at noon, and we had a plan for where we would get to, because there's not a lot of road crossings. There's not none, but once you start going south from Lake Placid, you cross Highway 28 north, you cross Highway 28, and there's a lake. What was that lake that started with a W? Wakely Pond has boat access, so we saw a number of cars driving that road just with boats going in.
And we walked that road for a while too.
Yeah, we walked that road for a while, and then it crosses the highway again at Lake Durant. No, that was the 28. Sorry, that was Highway 28. And then Pasecco, there's a road, and then you hit another road when you get close to Northville. So there's some options, but over 140 miles, roughly, they're pretty spread out. So with where we wanted to get to with the days we had to do a certain number of miles a day. And having recorded a podcast episode that morning, and then having to add some things to our resupply, we did not get to the trail until noon. But I will say, taking a step back, if we talk about adding things to our resupply, weird thing about the town of Lake Placid is none of their outfitters had fuel canisters or bug nets.
The bike store, which it's called something cycling,
High Ride Cycling,
but then the subhead of the
Cyclery.
store title is Mountain Adventure Sports. So I feel like that's their true, maybe they added that once they became more than a cycling store. They had a bunch of ski and Avi stuff even.
Yeah,
they were well stocked.
That's the punchline, is that the Eastern Mountain Sports didn't have any
Stuff.
anything you would need for hiking. We also needed headlamps.
Yeah.
Didn't have it. We went to another store, didn't have it. Then finally both places were try the cyclery. We thought, okay. And we went there, and that's where we found it. So big kudos to, I think, High Ride Cyclery for having what we needed.
Yes.
But that did add some time to our getting on trail.
Yeah.
And then with the sun setting at roughly 7 p.m., given the time of year, that gave us about 7 hours to do how many miles?
I think we did 16 miles. I'm syncing my watch right now.
Day one was 17 miles. Yeah. And we had a solid at least an hour and a half of night hiking on day one.
Yeah.
Do we want to do the day-by-day recap, or do we want to go through the sections? How do you guys want to do this?
Let's do well, what's the difference?
We'll get to everything eventually anyways.
What do you mean the
I'm
sections?
just doing the categories of the trail, wildlife, resupply.
Oh, no, let's do day by day.
Let's do day, yeah, and we can touch on that stuff.
Okay. So day one, started close to noon. We just wrapped our interview with James. We suspected that there would be some night hiking, but I think mentally for me, just knowing that the trail was flat, although people had told us that it was rocky and rooty, I still thought 2.5 miles per hour would be no problem. I'm picturing the AT. The AT is rocky and rooty, but you can still cruise quite a bit, especially when it's not a lot of climbing and descending. That was not the case here.
Yeah, I took some notes throughout it for things I wanted to remember. And one of the things that I had noted was, with my expectations going into it, for scenery specifically, I think I had set the right expectations. I knew, what I was to expect scenically. What I had not the right expectations set for was in terms of slow terrain. I had expected, and maybe you guys might feel differently about this, but I had expected more in that first day, those first 2 days, more blowdowns to step over And that was what I thought was going to be the obstacle, is stepping over things.
Yeah.
What I didn't expect to be the obstacle was that it was like walking through a car wash where
Getting
you're just
whacked
getting
in the face,
smacked
constantly.
by branches
Yeah.
from both sides as you're walking, and it's just hitting you and hitting you and hitting you from both sides, like that little spinny thing in the car wash. And that is fine for a bit, but there's also, I don't want to get too far ahead, but there's also lots of little spiders and little spider webs. And so the first person is just like clearing the trail. Like you're a feather duster going through these things. And that was slow moving more than I would think.
Yeah. I went into it without really any expectations at all, other than I knew our initial plan was to potentially try and do the whole thing. So my mindset was like, okay, this is going to be a freaking grind. I thought we were going to be doing 28-mile days. And so honestly, I think after that, everything was like, oh, we're only doing 16. Sweet. But that being said, I agree with Chaunce. Like, the car wash analogy is perfect. And I think Melissa Click had said something to the effect of the terrain in the north. And so I kind of expected rocky, rooty, like you said, and I haven't spent time on the AT, so I was expecting slow, and I feel like it was. And she mentioned also like 18-mile days feel like 25-mile days on other trails.
Yeah. And especially challenging because when there are blowdowns, like Chaunce was saying, like in our head, it's just something you step over or like maneuver over. The blowdowns are significant, and you're having to like loop around the entire blowdown section, and the trail is not very well cleared, especially that far north. So sometimes it's hard to even know where the trail is going. So you're doing like a large circumvent around where the blowdown is and trying to actually like find the trail, because we lost the trail on that first day, especially myself at least a dozen times, maybe more than that. And it's brief, like you don't ever feel like you're lost, but man, was I grateful to have GPS, because without that I would have spent a lot more time freaking out.
Yeah, I think also the other thing that's hard is you hear from people going into it, if you know people who have done it before, and if you're listening to this, you'll hear it from us, you know, like the miles move slow. And that is so hard to actually believe when you've hiked other trails and you think, okay, is this just someone telling me this, or is it actually that way? Because you look at the elevation profiles and it's like there's no day that has more than 2,000 feet of gain. So surely this person is saying something, but I am the exception. It will not be that way for me. And then you realize the miles are actually like, we were averaging 2 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And that was keeping a steady pace.
Yeah.
And there's no, like, it seems like there's not really a reason for it, because the trail it's not really that steep. So in theory, you should be able to go faster, and it doesn't happen. And you check your watch and you're like, I've only gone that far. And that can be a big mindfuck.
Yeah.
I also think something that added to both of those challenges, like what you just mentioned, was the time of year that we did it. A lot of the fresh leaves were falling. So like the areas where the trail would typically be like impacted, you can't tell what's impacted because it's all covered in like a fresh dusting of fallen leaves. So everything, there's certain spots that are different, but a lot of it where the like forest floor is more open and that canopy is up really high, everything just kind of looks the same. So you kind of have to gauge by like the tree markers or the slightly tiny impacted leaves. And then to Chaunce's point, like I felt like the part of my body that got sore on this trail was like just like my lower quads, like just above my knees. And I think it's because I was having to pick my feet up higher than I usually do, because you can't see what's under the leaves. So you don't want to trip. So you're just like picking your feet up,
you're
like
prancing.
A ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I mean, I still tripped a lot. Did not eat shit that I can remember. I don't think I did. But yeah, I think it was just like a combo of factors that led to slower.
And mud.
Yeah, a lot of mud.
It's almost...
And we were supposedly in a very, very dry
we had
time.
Such little mud compared to how much other people had.
Yeah.
It's been very dry up here. And so take whatever we're saying and picture a normal year, like not a dry year, and how that would slow you down more. That being said, though, do you want to comment on that before I go to my next thought?
I think that was maybe the thing that slowed me down the most, between that and like just not knowing where the trail was. But yeah, when you're walking through mud, like you want to avoid being wet and muddy as much as possible. So like you're strategically picking every single step, whether you're aiming for a root or a rock or like a down tree or something like that. In some sections, like none of that exists. So you're like, the fuck am I going to do here? It's just slow going.
But you start to learn how to read the mud, because at first, like the first day, it's like everything that looks mud with footprints in it, you want to avoid. And you're taking your time trying to find ways to avoid it. By day 4 or 5, you see at least on a dry season, you see the mud patches in front of you, and you can kind of see that's not real wet mud, that's dry mud, so I can step through that or I can't.
Some of it looks the same though.
Yeah.
Like, because I felt like I had that sense at one point, stepped right into
that's
some
what I was
real
going to
wet
say.
mud.
Sometimes you trust it and then you shouldn't, because you'll put your foot down thinking it's the dry mud and then it's surprise wet mud.
Yeah, but you're right. You can kind of get a gauge of sometimes it looks like it's going to be wet mud, but you've developed that sense and then it's not.
Yeah. Anything else from day one? We did an hour and a half a night hiking, like I said.
Yeah, we
Getting
rolled
the
up
headlamps
on
was essential.
Yeah.
Well, one more comment before we get into the night part, just because we were talking about like the leaves on the ground. I wouldn't want to do this trail any other season than the season we're doing
I totally agree with that.
Because I got to introduce them to Fruity Pebble leaves. They got to see them. We're not in peak foliage yet, but we're definitely more foliage than we thought we'd be. And I think that just like makes everything so pretty. And without that, it would have taken away a big component of what made the trail look really cool. And I also think going in September, October, it's less buggy because the snow melt is so far past being gone, and you have a higher chance of it being dry because it's end of the season. So I think all three of those things combined, that was a thought I constantly had, was I could not see myself wanting to do this trail in June. I could not see myself wanting to do this trail in July, in August. I would, especially because it's not a permitted hike, I would wait until, like, look up the foliage maps. Yeah. See when it's supposed to peak. Do it during that time.
Yeah. The only other thing I'll mention for day one is how much sweatier it was than I was expecting.
Oh my
and
God.
Day one for me was the sweatiest by a lot. And it wasn't even hot. Like when we got out of the car, the trail was flat, and within a quarter mile, I'm like drenched because it was close to 80. The humidity is crazy. And like I haven't sweat like that on a backpacking trip in a long time. And I've done a lot of like hot weather backpacking. This is just like you're sweating beyond reason.
And it feels so different from a dry heat when you're sweating because that evaporates so quickly. I was just like vaguely damp the entire day.
Yeah.
It was weird though because my asthma is triggered by humidity too. So if it's really humid and I'm exercising, like I will have asthma more than if it's dry. I used my inhaler because there's an inhaler that I'm supposed to use in the morning and the night, just like preventative. I never had to use my emergency inhaler. So it was never like a wheezing, I can't catch my breath type of humidity. But I took off my backpack at a break on the first day and like, I think I screamed. I was like, oh my God, because I had a sweat vest.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll see that on the video recap. We were all very sweaty. It was wet.
Yeah. I think the last thing about day one's, this trail does have lean-tos. That's what they call the shelters, is lean-tos. And we were hoping to camp in one on the first night, and there were people in it when we arrived at an hour and a half past sunset. So we were able to find tent sites next to the lean-to. I would say that's a pretty common occurrence, is that there are tent sites nearby the lean-to, and there's tent sites marked on the map. Other than that, good luck.
There's not really stealth camping.
Yeah, this is not a trail where you can just like find a spot on the side of it and like when you're tired.
Yeah. Yeah, at one point we joked because I took us off trail, and we joked about just like trying to beeline it to the trail, just straight through the woods. And like the idea evaporated instantly because it's just thick brush. Like in some parts you couldn't even conceivably do it.
Other funny thing about the nighttime, if we're talking nighttime portion, is there was a tent set up near where we set up our tents. And I woke up in the middle of the night because I heard like the sound of a fuel canister like turn on, when someone lights a fuel canister and you hear And I was like, what the fuck? I checked my phone and it was like 3:30 a.m. It was between like 3 and 3:30. And that guy in the tent he had a bear canister. A lot of people had bear canisters. I wouldn't say you need them. He had
Should
a bear.
also mention they're not required. So
They're not required. A lot of people just preventatively had them. He had gotten his bear canister. He was cooking food at 3:30 a.m. and then he left.
Yeah.
At 3:30 a.m.
Was our best theory that he was possibly bagging a 46er for sunrise?
I think the best theory, if he was doing that, he was bushwhacking to it. So I think
he was trying to
the
get
best
to
theory was
Northville
he
'cause
was just
like
he had a
something.
ride and he hadn't gotten far enough the day before or something.
Okay.
Yeah, that was wild. The other thing I'll say on that note with the bear canisters and not needing them is to echo what James said in his episode, which is like, if you see a bear, you're very lucky. We saw a bear scat, but we didn't see bears. I didn't see any paw prints. A lot of the shelters or lean-tos, like one of the sad things is they all have established fire pits and there's a lot of trash in them. I've seen broken glass. I've seen burnt tinfoil, like a lot of trash in them. I'm shocked that with the amount of trash in some of these fire pits, it doesn't draw in bears. But
I will say, just to as a quick addition to that, there was not a lot of trash otherwise.
Yeah.
It was a very clean, surprisingly clean trail. I packed out like maybe 4 pieces of trash over 90 miles. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just to say, like, there were a lot of people that had bear canisters. I wouldn't bring one.
Yeah, certainly not.
I never felt like there was going to be a bear coming into camp.
I did have my Ursac, but I slept with it.
Yeah, I slept in my food bag every night.
I didn't even see many rodents, like
that's
squirrels
why
or chipmunks. I saw one chipmunk.
I saw a lot.
Did you?
Oh yeah, they were. You know how they do that thing where they go.
Do it. You have to do it now.
I don't know how to even make that noise.
The squirrel noise. Yeah, it's a squirrel. I don't think chipmunks are making that noise. I think that's squirrels.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Squirrels, but I also did see chipmunks and they were squeaking and stuff. But not as many as I think the toads did outnumber the squirrels and chipmunks.
The chipmunks I started to see in the later half. I didn't see chipmunks in the first 2 days, but I saw chipmunks a lot in the second 2 days.
Yeah, along with grouse.
So your dad mentioned that the Adirondack Park is kind of a desert in terms of the soil quality. So like certain kinds of plants can't grow there, which is why a lot of like the bigger animals live on the perimeter of the park. So that might be the reason why we didn't see more wildlife. But we saw bear scat once on the first day. And then other than that, all the wildlife that we saw was small.
I did see a few more piles of bear scat, but yeah, I didn't. And one hoof print.
Yeah.
And that I believe was a moose because it was large. But yeah.
Yeah. To your guys' point, given how much trash and I'm sure food remnants there are at the campsites, if were more bears, they'd make themselves known.
I saw someone with bear spray too, and we saw a guy with bear bells. So I was also kind of like, is there something we don't know?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Anything else to mention from day one?
I don't think so. It was kind of like a haul because we got a late start. We had limited daylight. So it was a day where we really couldn't afford a lot of breaks and a lot of downtime. We just kind of had to get where we were going to not screw ourselves on future days. Yeah. So day one was kind of the biggest slog of them all in a lot of ways.
So you mentioned in a previous podcast that I did not like the NPT. I'll say I didn't like day one. I liked everything. I liked day 2 and 3 very much.
Were you there on day 3?
Yeah. Day 3 was the full day.
Oh, didn't remember.
They all blend together.
Yeah, day 3 is where we met your dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I did enjoy the rest of the hike. Day 1 for me did suck because I didn't think the scenery was good. It was frustrating trying to maneuver through it. And then like the breaks felt rushed. We didn't really see anything. I'm like, if this is going to be the trail for the entire time, like this is going to be a not fun recap. But I will say after day 1, it picked up for me quite a bit. With that said, let's start with, the other thing we should mention is bugs, because before we started this hike, the morning of, we interviewed James Appleton, and I went into this hike not worrying about bugs because I didn't think bugs existed anywhere in September. And then he made us reconsider that. So the thing that we did was go to an outfitter just to buy bug nets. We ended up getting headlamps too, which was clutch. But bugs, at least for me, you mentioned spiders and spider webs. That doesn't bother me. The bugs were a non-issue. There was one section where we took a short side trail down to a lean-to, and I was swarmed by the biting flies. That was an anomaly. That was the only place where that existed at all. Otherwise, like, we were camping right next to the water, and like, I didn't have any mosquitoes on me the entire time.
Yeah, in future days there were more bugs in parts. Nothing bad. Like, the bugs were never bad. There were just parts of the trail where the bugs were not great.
Yeah.
Like, not bad, but parts where it was not great.
For me, who's a bug phobe, especially mosquitoes, I consider it like a non-factor. You guys might have seen worse stuff after I got off, but like, as far as I'm concerned, that was like, the bugs were a non-issue. And then if you listen to James' episode, obviously most of the time bugs are a major issue. Yeah. So obviously take that with a grain of salt. Time of the year, dry year, etc. But for us in mid-September in 2024, I thought the bugs were awesome.
Yeah, 1 out of 5 days, I would say I noticed mosquitoes.
Okay.
I had coated all my stuff in permethrin, and I did not have mosquitoes on that day. Like, so I think, if it just depends how you go into it. But I mean, I saw them when Chaunce mentioned that, but I just didn't have to deal with them, which was nice.
Yeah.
And that said, I at first was like, wow, Chaunce is seeing all these spiders, but like, I haven't gotten any. And then
I was like, all right, Elise, why don't you walk in front?
And then I did, and oh my God.
And she's like, yeah, there's no spiders, and I'm in front just pulling them out of my mouth.
I believed you, but you were just like, it's so funny because they're so small, and they have these like, this specific type of spider loves to build its web over the trail or something, and Chaunce just kept like grasping at the air, basically, it looked like to me, and I believed her. It's just I couldn't ever see them, and so I was like, damn, that sucks. Like, I haven't hit a single spider. And then we switched spots.
Yeah, I literally like so transparently was like, how about you hike in front now?
and then I told Zach, eventually I just like made peace with it. Like, I would hit a web if I didn't see it. If I saw it coming, I would try and move it with my trekking pole, but there's some you just don't see, or like they're just above the brim of your hat, the right level, that they end up in your face, that's the worst. Because there were a few times I turned around to Chaunce and I was like, is there a spider on my neck? Like, just check my neck and my face, and if not, we're good. Because so you would knock down these tiny little spiders' webs, and then you'd have to find where the spider ended up on you. And like, usually it was somewhere on my torso, and I could just like grab its little piece of web and then like set it on the leaf. But the scarier times were then when I couldn't find the spider, because I was like, where did it go?
I know it's here. There was one time, Zach, I saw it from like my eyes peripheral on my face. Like, disgusting.
I had one drop from the bill of my hat, but that's definitely worse.
No, the bill of the hat's bad too. And you know they're there. And like, the other thing is, while you're walking, because it's so hot and humid and you're sweating and you're sticky, these spider webs are just sticking to you. Like little like flossy sticking, and you keep wiping at yourself and it keeps not coming off. And Elise has a video of me as I was walking, because I started taking the trekking poles and just like karate chopping them in front of me as I'd walk, to try to just like preventatively whack off like any spiders in front. That worked to an extent. After that, I started like covering one arm and putting it in front of my face like this to block my face, and then doing the trekking poles in front of it like this. So I had 2 up. A guy passed me today while I was doing that, and I think he thought I was trying to like prepare to like either fight him, or I thought he was going to attack me. Yeah. Like, he gave me this look like, I'm not, no stranger danger here, I'm okay. And I was like, this isn't, I don't remember which one. It was one of the first ones. It was the first one I saw in the day. And I remember just being like, my God, that must have looked so strange. I'm so sorry it wasn't for you. It was for the spiders.
Yeah. Was it the guy that told me to get off my phone?
I don't know.
We'll get to that. I want to hear that story. Okay, so day 2, set the scene for day 2. In order to keep the pace that we want to keep, there was a campsite at 17 miles and there was one at 25 miles. And based on the previous day, knowing that like, even when we're moving pretty well, we're just doing 2 miles per hour and there's only 13 hours of daylight, I was already pretty grumpy to start the day because I'm like, in order to get to 25 miles, it's going to be another day where we can't take any breaks. Like, I feel like I'm not going to see anything on this trail just because we're moving the entire time. So, yeah, I started the day grumpy for sure. And
Who decided on the 25 miles?
well,
We all did, I think. It was like
because we had come to the realization that we wanted to finish by a certain point on Sunday. And in order to do that, we had to average like 23 miles per day or something to that effect. And since we'd only done 17 the first day, obviously we needed to get ahead of pace. So doing another 17-mile day just basically would have made that impossible.
Yeah, and I think we started the day also with a bit of a disconnect because in my mind it was always going to be a full day hiking Sunday. And I think in your mind maybe it was going to be a half day on Sunday.
Yeah, we can get to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought that we were doing a 25-mile day on day 2.
Yeah. I would also like to just emphasize that, yes, sunrise was at whatever, 6
o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, something in that.
And then sunset's at 7. But when I feel like I'm used to stuff out west. So like It's a little bright before the sun rises.
Yeah.
It's a little bright after the sunset. You've still got like 30, maybe even 40 minutes of kind of semblance of light before you have to even whip out a headlamp. Even when you whip out a headlamp, a lot of times at camp, you can still kind of walk around by the light of the moon. People who are from New York or, you know, anywhere with like really thick woods are probably going to laugh at me saying this, but oh my God, is it so dark literally
Very
right
quickly.
until sunrise and like right after sunset.
Yeah.
And when you turn your headlamp off at night, I felt like I was in a cave.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was so dark.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The forest is dense.
so there's no like,
And it's dark.
Yeah.
To your point, out west, you can still see after sunset.
Yeah.
It's dark before sunset.
Yeah.
Just because it gets so low on the horizon and the trees are
Yeah.
blocking it. Yeah. It was like, I think we were headlamps on at like 7:10, 7:15.
Yeah.
It was like
Yep.
right away. Yeah. So day 2, for the first few hours of the day, we really haven't seen anything. The first thing that was exciting for me were these suspension bridges.
Yeah.
That was cool.
That was a cool suspension bridge.
Yeah, there was a couple of them.
Yeah.
And it was fun crossing with you because I was treating them like trampolines and jumping on them.
Yeah, so I had gone across a couple times. Like, we took a break at the shelter. I know the shelter. I marked it on my... This is why I took all those waypoints. So the suspension bridge, nice stream. Day 1 lunch by stream. Oh, what's this one say? Lean to. Sorry, bear with me, guys. Bridge.
in case they want to take a break at the same
Night
lean-to.
1 tent site. Suspension bridge. Okay, so the suspension bridge is at Cold River number 4 lean-to. If you are going northbound, it is at mile. It is at mile. Sorry for the annoying pause here. I'm still learning how to use Onyx. It is at mile 111.7 northbound. Really cool suspension bridge, like metal floor to it. And we had taken a break at the Cold River lean-to. And we thought the trail went the other way. And I was just like, I'm going to walk across this bridge because it looks cool. And I saw the trail marker on it. And it was like, oh, good thing we saw this. And so I walked across it to take a video. I came back. I had gone across it a couple times. So then Elise went across it and was like, LOL spooky. And then when I went back across it with Zach, I was ready to have some fun. Because I was like, I've gone across this bridge a couple times. So I started jumping. Because I was like, this is fun. And then Zach started jumping, and he's a big boy. And so the whole bridge just started rattling. And I was like, that's too much fun. I don't like that much fun. And then I started running.
White-knuckling it on the side. Yeah. That was fun for me.
Yeah.
Spooking you guys out is always a good time. But
I was off the bridge by that point. I was not messing with that.
For how rugged the trail is, and like a lot of the bridges are just like decaying wood, the suspension bridges were very well done, and I think a nice touch on the trail. So you hike along Cold River for a very solid stretch, cross those 2 suspension bridges, eventually loop around to Long Lake, and there's a series of lean-tos, shelters there. We actually ran into some guy who was sitting down enjoying lunch. We chatted him up. He's a professor at University of Illinois, Champaign, and he did agriculture and like agricultural nutritional sciences or something.
Food scarcity specialty or something.
But we chatted with him for probably 10 minutes, and like as we were hiking out, I forget. He put two and two together.
Yeah, because he asked Zach what he did for a living, and he was like, "I run a small media company," like not saying outright really, like. And then I think Chaunce came up at the tail end of the conversation, and so she started chatting with us, and then as Zach was walking away, Zach said something, and I think he was like,
he said,
I
"Hey,
recognize your voice.
That website you have, does it also have a podcast?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Is it the Trek?"
Yeah. And he's like, I've heard way too many poop stories from you guys.
Yeah.
So
throughout the years.
Of all the trails I've been on, that was the one that I was the least expecting to run into somebody that listened to the podcast. So.
He was the first guy I think we ran into. We didn't see many people that we actually talked to on day one because they were asleep in their tents by the time we got there. And I think he was the first person we saw.
Yeah.
Maybe on day two.
To convey a message from him to the audience, he would like us to deliver the message of, please don't come here.
Yep.
Yeah, he doesn't want us to blow up his spot. He was like, "Oh, don't." We come out here for the solitude, and I will say, like I just said, he was like the second person, or the first person we even spoke to.
Yeah,
it's not a crowded trail
for sure.
Yeah.
That point, we got to what I thought was the first like cool, exciting thing, which was I forget the name of the tent site. I should probably pull it up, but there was a little like secluded beach right off of Long Lake. A nice sandy cove where the water is very shallow and you've got a nice view of the lake looking west. And
the tent site we saw him at was Rodney Point Lean-To.
I think the site we were at might have been.
Just Plumley. It was Plumley
Lean-To. Yeah, and then what was the tent
It's
site?
not a name. It was just a little spur trail.
Okay.
Right to the lake. It was in between like Kelly Point and something with a D point.
I marked it. It was at mile 103.9 northbound is where we had a nice little beach we stopped off at on a side trail.
Yeah. Had that beach to ourselves, and that was awesome. And that was I was very excited to take a break there because like that was the first time where I felt inspired. I'm like, you guys, this is the coolest thing that we've seen on the Northville Placid Trail. Let's just kick it here for a while.
And then?
Do you have anything to add?
Do we want to elaborate on that conversation?
This is not my story. So.
And then?
Should I tell the story?
Sure. Let's have Elise tell the story.
I feel like I'm signing myself up for... Zach, I think in that moment was realizing that he had maybe not had as good of a time as he was hoping in the first day and a half. Maybe enjoyed morning two, but day one felt like a slog, and he was kind of like, what's the true spirit of this trip? I really want to like have a good time, and enjoy myself and see the Adirondacks. So he began to propose an alternate plan for the rest of the road trip. And then Chaunce, I think, maybe heard it as...
We had three options, which was continue the death march, quote unquote, cut off trail early and get off and do slower miles, or just get off trail and go do a 46er.
The third option was like to continue doing the Northville Placid Trail, but to give ourselves a day to go explore the high peaks. Because from what I've heard, like that is the essence of the park, and I thought it'd be a cool thing to see.
Yeah, and I think maybe when something got crossed in the communication, and it was, I think Chaunce heard it as like, this is the new plan.
Maybe I'll tell it.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically...
I mean, it makes more sense that way.
Yeah, I think so too.
This is me just observing.
For me,
I thought that was a fair recap for what it's worth.
Fair. No,
well, I didn't finish.
She's not doing it justice.
Yeah.
I just think if we're telling my perspective, I'll just tell my perspective.
Yeah.
For me, we had come into it willing to be flexible, but I think our interpretation of the word flexible, I've now realized might be different, which neither of us are wrong in that. But when I was saying like if we wanted to have a plan B, we should have thought of a plan B in advance, was just like, I think if we were to go back and do something like this again, that's a longer hike, in advance having a conversation that says, hey, if we're not enjoying this, what is our backup plan? And let's like come up with a backup plan before we get on trail.
Yeah.
If it's slow down mileage, then like let's like look at like the out points and see what that looks like. Like maybe we won't make it to where we wanted to get to, but where like what's the slower route look like?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I wanted to do this trail for so long. My parents live in Northville. Like I've been like wanting to do it. So I had this idea in my head of we are going to do it to this point and then I can come back next week and I can finish it. And I was okay with option 2, which was slow down the days, because 25 miles that day I think was getting in our heads. But it was the 46er part that like sent me down a spiral, because I was like this for me it wasn't part of what my interpretation of the word flexible was. In my interpretation, it's like that's what completely changing the plan is. And I don't do well with change, and I don't do well with like sudden decisions, and I needed to just like sit down and look at a map and like see what things looked like. And I felt like everything was just kind of moving too fast at like a brainstorming pace, where like Zach and Elise were talking through what would it look like if we did a 46er. And I felt like mentally I hadn't caught up to even the idea of making a change to the agenda yet. And had a full-on mental collapse. Like midday meltdown to a T. Was just like, I don't like this. And I feel like I haven't like wrapped my head around what any of these options look like, and we're already going down the route of picking one of them, and I haven't really grasped any of them yet, and I feel like I'm not caught up to make the decision because I haven't processed the change yet. And it basically like piled up a bunch of emotions, and I just started crying.
And I think that's where like the wires got crossed, because I think we were just like, oh yeah, like what if we did that? But unfortunately, I think like the communication wasn't clear, that we weren't saying like, oh, that's the plan now. But I get where like that's where what you heard, and like why that would be overwhelming. And you were also in the meantime processing the logistical factors of like, okay, well then like how am I going to meet my dad? And like
we don't have a car.
We don't have a car. Like how's that going to work? And I think we were so in the spitballing phase, but that didn't like
my brain
translate.
Doesn't process fast enough.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think it's anyone's like your brain or anything. I think it's just like you heard us talking about like a 46er and thought like, oh, we were already there, when we weren't, but it like seemed that way.
Yeah.
So
for me, I was like, we need to pump the brakes, because I'm not ready to talk about what would it look like to do a 46er, because I haven't wrapped my head around.
Oh, we might be changing this plan,
and I need a minute. I need a minute to sit here and wrap my head around the fact that this plan might change, and that I might not finish this trail on this trip. And this might be different from the expectation that I came in with, and that might change. And I just like, I need to grasp that before I can start planning something different. And so then hearing you guys already talking about, well, how would that work? I'm like, I'm not there yet mentally. Like I'm not up to that pace, and you guys are going ahead to the next chapter, and I haven't finished this chapter. And I feel like now I'm missing stuff from chapter 2 because I'm not done with chapter 1. And you guys are still talking, and I can't catch up, and brain spiral.
Yeah. Just mishmash of expectations and poor communication led to...
And tiredness.
And fatigue.
Yeah. And fatigue.
And like
sure.
dread of a 25-mile day.
Yeah. But
you know?
It was great. We worked through it.
Yes,
we got
did.
past it, and we were adults about it,
Yep.
and that's how it goes on hikes and in life. So
yeah, I think it's a good example of something to talk about, like how that can happen when you're on a hike with anyone. Like you can have different expectations going into it without even realizing you have different expectations. And then also, what does that communication then look like on trail when things might change? And it doesn't always go perfectly smoothly, but eventually like you figure it out, and like you come to in a consensus.
Where I was able to self-regulate was when I was able to sit there and look at a map and then write out, okay, if this is what we want to do instead, this is what the mileage for each day would look like, this is where we would get off, this is what that would look like. And once I could see, I made 3 different options, and I had each one like, this is what this would look like, this is what this would look like, this is what this would look like. And once I could go back and forth between my map and a like notes doc and see it all laid out, I was like, okay, now I feel like I've processed it enough where I can say, okay, let's talk about these options. And that was good for me. But I think biggest takeaway for me was learning what other things we could talk about in advance that could prevent that from being a thing in the future.
Sure. I honestly didn't even foresee the scenario where we would be so time crunched. Like, I legitimately thought getting to Prosecco Lake with the time that we had, given the miles that we've done previously in our backpacking careers, would have been a cakewalk.
Yeah.
And that was just not the case, even remotely. Two was, I guess we hadn't communicated well about like how much you had your heart set on doing the thing. So when I pitched that idea, I was not aware of like how much that meant to you. So we learned, we got through it.
Out.
And I want to give you both kudos for like how you did communicate through that, because Chaunce, to your point, you were like, give me 10 minutes. I need to figure this out and I'll be fine then. But like, I need a moment. And so we like went and like played in the water, and like we came back and we like figured it out. And Zach, you were like, there was a point where you were like, okay, what I proposed is not, you know, Chaunce's heart is set on this. So like, here are the things that we can do to make that happen. Like what can we wiggle around elsewhere so that it's not a death march, but also so that she can get out of this what she wanted to.
Well, what's so fun, like the funny part in retrospect is that we did get to Prosecco and it didn't feel like we were rushing any other day. I think it was just that first day.
It was a rough day to make a decision after.
If you applied the first day's pace to the rest of the trail, I think it had the potential to be a death march.
Right.
And fortunately, it was not that way.
Yeah, and because we didn't start at noon any other day, and we didn't like have as many blowdowns or car wash like side sweepers to that extent. But I think going in with that type of first day and trying to do 25 miles the second day,
it was
and
too
we
much.
got to Long Lake, and I think part of it was looking at Long Lake and being like, I don't want to feel like I can't sit here and enjoy this.
Yeah, totally.
Just like a nice, like perfect storm of all kinds of things that could compile to just. That's what midday meltdowns are made of.
It's also a great lesson in like sometimes things compound in the backcountry.
Big feelings.
Yeah.
And I think the ultimate silver lining of it for me, I mean, there's probably bigger silver linings, but just from the standpoint of recapping this hike was, I thought it was awesome to scrap the 25-mile agenda for that day for a multitude of reasons, but the campsite that we landed at that night was amazing.
That was the best campsite of the trail.
I'm looking forward to, I was going to say, I can't wait to hear about day 4 and 5, but for me, like, that campsite was not only the best that we had on the trip from what I was there for, but that was one of the cooler campsites I've had in a very long time period, like hands down any trail. It was so awesome.
Catlin Bay number 2 lean-to. So there's number 1 lean-to, which is in the forest along the trail, like not really a water view. It's far enough off the water, but there's a little island off of the trail that's like close enough that you just walk over some rocks to get to it. And Catlin Bay number 2 lean-to is on that island facing sunset or sunrise. Sunset. And so we got a great sunset. It was overlooking the lake. We didn't stay at the lean-to because there was a family there that had come in by boat.
Yeah.
But there was a little peninsula jutting off the island that had an established campfire pit, and it had like a sandy beach area. It had a nice flat area. It had basically everything we needed. And it was such a good sunset. And the next morning, me and Zach, we were on the like sandy part, and the water just had like that mist over it, like that nice little morning misty water. It was so nice.
Yeah. And it was near a full moon. So yeah, you've got the beautiful lake, you've got the fog hovering right above the lake, you've got the full moon. It was a crisp morning. Like you got the fall colors in the background. Like it was like, fuck yeah. I'm so glad that we stayed here, because for me that was the highlight of the entire short section that I did.
Yeah, it was great. And I guess a good time to mention that this was I guess I should talk about my tent. We didn't mention it on night 1.
Yeah.
I forgot, this was an oopsie on my part. I forgot that on the Teton Crest Trail, I had broken my trekking poles I was using were the twist locks, not the metal clamps. It was just like the ones that you twist into place and then they like lock themselves. the twist locks had broken on both trekking poles. And on the Teton Crest Trail, what I did to fix it was I Leuco-taped it to the height I needed it at, and called it a day. And I didn't really think about that and how that would impact this hike. I just thought, I hope they fit in my checked bag. And it's like, I'm 5'1". We all know this. I say it a lot. But that's not tent height for trekking poles. And I couldn't take off the Leuco-tape and then put it back on because I didn't bring Leuco-tape because I couldn't find it when I was packing, and I just didn't think I would need it. And so I was stuck with my trekking poles at that height and no other option. My tent did not look good. It looked like a tent that like had been left out for 7 weeks that someone finds in the woods that like is mostly collapsed but not fully. And so I had to take the bungee snaps off of my bug net and tie them to one of the guy line parts. And then I had to unstring one of the side cords on my backpack over the side pocket and use that as another guy line. And I had to pitch my tent near trees so I could tie it up to trees to make it even like slightly elevated off the ground enough to like lay in without it just like laying on top of me. So that was an unexpected surprise for me, which was kind of funny for everyone. It was the comedic relief we needed.
Yeah. It worked out nicely with my injury for you, at least. We'll get to that. I guess, is there anything else to mention on day 2? That campsite was awesome. I would live there if I could.
Yeah, no, the campsite was great.
I will mention, because a lot of the lean-tos are popular. You mentioned broken glass earlier. The area that I tented, there was a lot of like probably 2 bottles worth of broken glass. That was kind of a bummer, but I'll push that to the side because just that scene was awesome. Mm-hmm. Day 3. This is the day we're gonna meet up with your pops. Mm-hmm. So we had a little bit of that like we're going to town vibe in us, a little bit of a rejuvenation. We get a couple beers, a meal.
Started playing odds.
We had some good ones. But yeah, I guess before we get to that point, I'll just say from a trail standpoint, like actual hiking standpoint, that was the highlight for me. That was the point where the trails, there were sections where it wasn't rugged at all. Like it was smooth, it was soft. There were pine needles and then the freshly fallen leaves on top of it. The weather was perfect. It was sunny out. You could really cruise down the sections. I felt like the foliage was just getting better by the day. Like for me at that point, everything was clicking and I was having a good time. There were sections where they had like little boardwalks or bridges, or I guess I don't know what the exact correct terminology is, like through very lush terrain where some scenes are very green all around you. Some of it is like peak foliage, even in the bushes, like it's just colorful all around. You feel like you're on an acid trip or something like that. And you're not constantly maneuvering to try to find the best footing with every single step. It was just like, yeah, it was dream hiking.
We hit the high point of the Northville Placid Trail that day, which was at 3,008 feet.
Yeah, and that was the only climb, again, that I experienced. I think it was, like 1,300, about 1,200 feet over a 2-mile span. So in the context of what we had done, it felt like a climb compared to any other hike. It was very moderate, but yeah, it was honestly, from my perspective, it was nice to like change the incline rate. Just you get to use some new muscles. And
that was something that I started noticing on day 3 was I had said it to you. I was like, what I'm shocked about is typically on a trail, my feet will start to hurt and my knees will start to hurt. And I was like, the strangest thing is right now, the only thing that really is giving me any pain is my upper thighs and my butt. Like those 2 are sore, and those are never usually things that are sore. And you pointed out, because there's not much climb and there's not much downhill and it's relatively flat, you're using the same muscles all day instead of switching between muscle groups. And so that was super interesting to me. It was just like the different places I was sore and the places that I wasn't, that I expected to be. But I would love if every single trail I ever hike would be like this one, in that once you start to be like, damn, this climb sucks, it's almost done.
Yeah.
It was so nice because even any other part of the trail too, whenever there was a climb that was a little steep, and like I would get winded on, especially with the heat. Like you're almost done by the time you start.
Yeah.
So it's really nice because like there's no real sufferfest.
Yeah. Did you guys see that floating tree toward the top of that climb? Like there was a tree that was the branches of it were being held on by two trees on either side.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, at least I turned your volume down. You're back.
Yeah.
Oh. Try it again.
Uh-oh.
There we go.
Hi. Yes, I did see that.
Yeah.
That was wild
I've
and
never seen-
terrifying. I think I literally thought in my head that's like the makings of a guillotine.
Yeah.
If like, and I know there's a rock. Isn't there a rock called the guillotine on the AT?
Yeah.
That was the tree guillotine on the NPT.
Yeah, just vertical tree over the trail, slightly above my head height, just like hanging there waiting to just like straight drop.
Yeah. I'd never seen anything like that before. Then yeah, so I guess at the break after this, for me, dreamlike stretch, that's when I think the mood of like, again, knowing that we're going to get some actual food was lifting our spirits. So we started playing odds.
Yeah, so we had crossed by the Salmon River tent sites. That was where you had chatted with that guy. And I can't remember what you said, but I wanted to point it out to you, and then we got distracted with odds. But you were talking to him about something, and you made a joke about like going upstream or something. And the fact that it was at Salmon River tent sites and you had made like a swimming upstream joke was salmon related. It was so funny to me.
Salmon humor, baby.
But yeah, so shortly after that, it was at mile 91.5 northbound. There's Salmon Pond Road. It's a private road that you walk down for a little bit. And the funny part about this, okay, so we're playing odds. We're having a great time. We are loving. Like, there are dirt roads. There's several road walks on this trail. So far, they have always been, like, much welcomed. Like, I know on a lot of trails, road walks get hate. But on this trail where it's just spider webs and, like, car wash side sweeping and all that, to get a road for, like, a mile or two, I was like, thank God. This is so nice.
Yeah, and it was a nice road. Like, it wasn't a paved road. It was like a hard-packed dirt
road, beautiful trees. It was great. And we were walking, and there was one part where there was a sign that said trail, and it had a Northville Placid Trail like thing, and the arrow pointed left, like into the woods. And you look left, and there's not really a trail right there. And everyone was walking, and I was like, hey guys, this arrow points left, but it doesn't look like there's anything in the woods. And I think you guys were like, it just means this way.
No.
No?
I need to defend myself in this. We were like, oh, maybe the trail does diverge from the road at some point. You were like, is this it? And Zach pulled out.
I don't think Elise said anything. I'm just like, no, it's this way.
What's she defending herself about? She had no contribution to this.
Because I'm saying I did not.
She was innocent.
Say,
she was innocent.
I didn't say you were guilty.
It means keep going.
Yeah. This is a good segue to odds because I was the one that was like, no, it's still this way. It's one of those things where you're looking at your GPS and it just took too long for the compass to orient in the correct direction.
The best part is I am recording this on my camera because I like to record the trail signs. So on my camera, and I'm so glad I have the receipts. I say to the camera, I'm like, one of my trail pet peeves is a trail sign that points in a direction and it's not entirely accurate. Like, don't just tell me the general direction, point to where I'm supposed to go. And this one is pointing into the woods right here. And if we're meant to go straight down this road, that's a pet peeve of mine. Just put the sign slightly different on the tree so that it points down the road.
Yeah.
But at this point, we were playing odds, so we were having a hoot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We just kept going.
This is where John Travolta comes into play, but that's my favorite of the odds, so I don't want to lead off with that one. Let's start with some of the smaller. We don't have to do all of them.
What was the first one that I lost? Oh, no, that was before we even got to the road.
That's right. That was the beginning of my demise because I was so excited to present my odds idea to you. I was going to give it to Chaunce, but you were closer to me. That like I was like kind of scooting to catch up to you and not looking down. And I rolled the fuck out. I can swear in front of your dad. I rolled the fuck out of my ankle. It was like one of those where within a half second of rolling it, like the first thought that came to my head is like, this is the end of my hike. Like I had already psyched myself out because not only was it very painful, and it's one of those sprains where like you do a light jog immediately afterward to try to like convince yourself that you're okay. But I heard a pop. The ankle went all the way down to the ground. Like it in my head, it was like, this is very bad. So I was still able to maneuver on it. I wasn't immediately worried. It wasn't like an SOS button situation. It was just like, when I stop, this might be a thing. Which at that point I presented the odds to you, which was
It was the third person one. I think.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we're planning to go grab lunch dinner in town at Blue Mountain Lake. Is that what it is? And this was for Chaunce, but Elise was the victim because she was closer. We did odds on if when she was interacting with the server, she could only refer to herself in the third person. So like when she's ordering, like, yes, Elise would like a beer. Elise would like a grilled cheese.
Yeah. And obviously I lost.
Yeah.
And you'll see. I actually ended up being sort of somewhat anticlimactic, but
The waitress,
which was a little weird.
she was kind of tuned out on us. Like she wasn't totally paying attention. So yeah, you got away with
like
it
she
easily.
didn't notice that I was doing
She
it.
didn't notice any of the weird shit we were doing, which is like also it's good.
I think she noticed mine.
She noticed yours. Yeah, it was good, but it was also bad, but also funny. We'll get to the restaurant when we get to the restaurant. But basically, this kicked off a entire slew of when we get to the restaurant type odds. And at this point, no, you guys had met my dad. You met my dad on the drive up from Albany.
But he wasn't getting any prep for this. He was just gonna
right. But you knew who he was. But we started incorporating him in odds.
Yeah.
Because then the one that I did and I lost, which sucked because it would have been so much funnier if you lost, was I odds Zach and I was like, what are the odds that when we get to the restaurant and we're ordering, you point to my dad and you say, he'll have a chocolate milk. We laughed for like a good while about that.
These things are always funnier when they happen, but it was still very funny. Part of me thinks that the second odds that you lost watered down the first odds.
I wasn't going to say it in the moment because I didn't want you guys to like not let me off the hook, but it was great.
Yeah. The second odds that you lost was you say, he'll have a chocolate milk, pointing to your dad, and then you go, no, I'll have a chocolate milk.
Well, so the way it was supposed to work was that I wouldn't lose the second odds and that you would lose the second odds. And so I would say, he'll have a chocolate milk, and then you would cut me off and you're like, no, I'll have a chocolate milk.
Yeah.
That was what I hoped
that would have been funnier, but yeah, you lost both.
Yeah.
The other part of Elise's order was she lost another round of odds where she had to order from the menu holding it upside down.
And I had to point at it.
Had to like point at what she wanted on the menu. So Elise would like the fish and chips holding an upside down menu and just pointing to it.
Which, if you think about it, I thought about this after the fact. It definitely still looked weird, but it could kind of look like you're trying to show the server where you're pointing, which is
you
kind of
gotten away with it if you tilted it for you.
It's uncool. I feel like that would have been more shameful to me than pointing at the menu upside down.
Yeah.
Well, so one of the funny things too was we had said that we weren't going to tell my dad that we had done odds because we wanted the element of surprise, and so my dad goes, yeah, I'll have a milk. And I was like, no, he won't. And he was like, no, I'll have a milk. And I was like, Dad, you don't have to do this. I was kidding. He's like, no, I'll have a milk. And I was like, Dad, we're all getting beer. You do not have to drink milk. Like, I'm like apologizing. I'm like, I did not mean you needed to get a milk. And she's like, would you like chocolate or regular? And he's like, I'll have regular. And I'm like, Dad, we're all getting beer and you're going to have a milk?
You incepted him for sure. Yeah.
He just happened to order a milk because he was having some acid reflux.
Yeah. And then I had to do mine. This was embarrassing, even for me, who doesn't get embarrassed easily.
You came up with it.
Yeah, I lost this one. I pitched it and lost it. I had to ask the server, excuse me, which way to the dumper?
And this was definitely funnier by the fact that this diner, we were empty. When we got there, we were the only table in there.
Yeah.
By the time we left, 2 other tables had come. 1 server, 1 chef.
Yeah.
Silent.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no music playing, actually. We know there was Motown.
Yeah,
there was Motown.
My dad was enjoying that.
That was the only one where your dad reacted because he started to laugh.
But and then it was also funny because then we told him about odds and I was like, this is why we're doing this. And then I explained odds. I was like, for example, if I say, Zach, what are the odds you chug your beer right now? And you lost that one. You had to chug your beer.
Yeah.
But to circle back, one of the biggest funny parts about this is as I'm telling you all these odds things that we had come up with, we are still walking the wrong way down the dirt road. We're just happily going. We're like, this is so fun.
It was probably close to a half mile.
It was a half mile.
At least.
Yeah.
How did we figure it out? Did we just...
I think I just looked at GPS.
You're like,
just
never mind.
Just to fact check it.
Oh, that reminds me. I want to call that out. I have experienced GPS not working because of like cloud cover before or in a canyon. This was the first time I think I'd really seen the effects of like thick tree cover. Definitely a factor to consider for any of your GPS devices.
There was some times where mine wouldn't update my location. I found the fix because I had tried closing the app and reopening it. Didn't change it. I tried turning my phone off and on. Didn't change it. I took my phone off airplane mode and it updated. Even though I didn't have any reception. It was no reception whatsoever.
Yeah.
But switching it on and off from airplane mode and letting it sit off airplane mode for a second, for some reason, fixed it every time.
Yeah. Well, so me leading us astray was actually the lead-in to my favorite of all of the odds, because I was trying to blame Elise by saying that, like in the movie Face Off, where Nick Cage and John Travolta actually trade faces, that it was Elise's fault because she was wearing my face when that happened, which then somehow led to the odds where at the Bills game during the tailgate, the loser of this bet would have to first do a cartwheel, second scream John Travolta, and then third do a shotgun right in front of a stranger's tailgate. And then Elise, who is sweet and rightfully gets embarrassed easily, lost that bet.
Well, I took 1 in 30 because I figured it's high enough that it's unlikely I'll lose and low enough that it doubles Zach's chances of losing. So it felt like a good number. What I didn't account for is I knew that Zach had been saying like 2 and 11 all day long. Like if it was between 1 and 20, he was saying 11. If it was between 1 and 10 or anything lower, he was saying 2. And so in my brain, I was like, next time I'm just going to say, I was like, I think I had planned to say like either 3 or 10.
Yeah.
But I think that subconscious thought of like,
trapped.
I got, like the impulse took over.
When someone's
and
going 3, 2, 1, it's like everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Exactly.
3, 2,
and then
1
I
is
said 2.
Yeah.
And then Zach said 2 as well. And
yeah.
And here I am.
I don't know if we have that odds on camera, but we have the one of you losing the third person one on camera.
Yeah.
That one is very funny.
No, we didn't have the car. I don't.
Because that's what you were running to catch up to me to film it.
Yeah. I also, the other funny thing we're forgetting is when I said 75 and you said 60 and I said you didn't finish the number.
I forgot about that. Thank you for
forgetting. We had to teach Zach the pause. Like, there's no pause after 1.
Yeah, Zach is the person that fucks up rock, paper, scissors, essentially.
No.
He's the one that always goes at the wrong time.
I think just what happens is you guys are both wrong.
I think Zach cheats and he tries to figure out what your number is before he says his.
He does tend to do it more with you, Chaunce.
And when he said 60, the reason I said you have to finish the number is because he went 60.
Yeah.
Like, it was like he paused, like 60? Like, there's another number coming. And you're like, 60 what?
No, that wasn't.
And he's like, that's a full number.
You just couldn't imagine that 60 was a real number.
It's just the way that the inflection in your tone seemed like you would have said another number after it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to meet Steve Chauncey, and
we passed Terrell Pond. I feel like something happened at Terrell, but I don't remember.
Elise lost her Sawyer.
Was that at Terrell Pond?
Oh, that was right around there, yeah. And I also have a screenshot from like right around that time when my GPS was glitching and I was pointing directly at Bad Luck Mountain. Fun fact.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to. We passed. There was that site with the canoes, and I was like, should we break at the canoes? And Chaunce was like, if we break at the canoes, there will be too much tomfoolery, and we'd need to meet my dad.
Yeah, because I told my dad 3 to 4 p.m. and it was like inching towards the 4. It was inching towards 3:30, and I'm like, you don't just have a break on a canoe, like.
And I was like, but we could.
You can, yeah, you absolutely can. But if we're gonna paddle this canoe out and have a break and paddle it back in, this is going to be on the longer side of a break. And you guys don't know my dad well yet, but I know my dad well. And if there's no reception and he can't check on anything and we're not there in the time frame we say we're going to be there, he's going to be like, get frantic. And sure enough, when we got to the car, he was like, yeah, I didn't know where you guys were. I thought maybe I went to the wrong road. And if 4 p.m. hit, I was going to go to the other road to see if you were there. And I'm like, thank God we didn't go on this fucking canoe. But Zach had checked the canoes. There were no paddles. So that let me off the hook. So I was like, I don't want to be the buzzkill on day 2. That's like, I'm having a meltdown because I'm not getting my way. And then on day 3, I'm like, no canoes. You know, like, that's just like, who's Chaunce? So I was like trying to be like maybe. I don't know. Are there paddles? I hope not. And then that ended up being like the best spot to have braked. So we had like the crummiest break. I mean, it was
bushwhack.
It was a great view.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like the
It was an okay
ideal
view.
break spot.
We could have
Okay,
just
view.
sat next to the canoes.
Yeah.
And
We could have sat next to the canoes.
Yeah.
But,
No, but it
in
was
my
a
mind,
valid-
I'm like, I gotta get Elise away from the canoes.
It was a valid point.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we did end up bushwhacking like 10 feet to the front of the lake essentially. And when they were bushwhacking to go start the break, I was like, I'll go pee on the other side of the trail. And so I set my pack down, I went and peed, and then came back, swung my backpack back on, and my full water bladder just like flew out of my backpack. And I didn't think that much of it. I just had to like filter when I sat for the break. And so I picked the bladder back up, like bushwhacked, got down to them, went to go start filtering the 2 liters in my bladder, and realized that my filter was no longer with us. And so I was really bummed about that for a second because I
you
just
were
bought
bummed.
it.
Yeah, you were bummed for sure.
And I was trying not to. I just get really quiet usually when I'm bummed. But
you had an idea of where it could be.
Yeah.
So we marched over there. In my head, because this is such a dense trail, like with a lot of overgrowth, I'm like, we're not going to find this thing.
I was I was like, oh, it probably flew out when my bladder flew out, but I wasn't certain that that's what happened. And so I was like, the chances of finding this are like, it's fine. I'll buy another
And I
one,
could also sense that Chaunce was feeling stressed about
Yeah.
getting to the road. So we were like on
Yeah.
a time crunch, but also didn't want to leave that thing behind, more from an LMNT perspective, because I
That
have,
too,
I have
yeah.
a filter I can give you. But yeah, like right as I was ready to give up, I'm like, oh shit, it's right there.
Yeah. Zach spotted it like underneath a little leaf,
Yeah. It's
a
like
leaf
a
plant.
small fern or something.
Yeah, and that was exactly my fear, that it was under something like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, it was a small miracle.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Recovered it, started moving quickly to Steve again, and that's when I rolled my same ankle, my right ankle, a second time, and I had a witness this time.
And that was, if the image of Chaunce's face hitting the asphalt is the imprint I have from the Wisconsin trip, then the image of Zach's ankle hitting the ground is the image I have from this trip.
That was the one that scared me, because when I sprained my ankle the first time, I heard a loud pop, and this sprain was like it extended the same degree as the first one, and just no sound,
Nothing.
just
Yeah.
pain, just
And-
instant pain.
I don't know how to describe what I saw, but it was, yeah, like your ankle fully hit the ground, but it also like moved in a weird direction that I really didn't like. And then you jolted. It was like watching a cartoon character. You like jolted in the opposite direction. And I was like, that was not good.
Yeah, I try to instinctually, I guess when you do something instinctually, you're not thinking, but like when I roll an ankle,
Get the weight off of it.
yeah, just whatever I can do to not add more weight to the situation. So
Yeah.
like in the first time I ran, the second time I did whatever weird thing I did there, but it was like, that's when I'm like, okay, let's just get to the road. We'll evaluate this when we get there. This is not a thing. Cause like it hurt, but it wasn't like I need help. Like I can still hike on this easily. Get to the road, meet up with Steve Chauncey, take the hitch to the restaurant, do all that weird shit. At that point, I'm actually feeling pretty good, because I was expecting once I got off my feet for a little bit, the pain would just start flushing in, and I felt okay. Like legitimately, I could put weight on it. I could move it in directions. Like it wasn't alarming to me. We go to the Stewart's, the gas station, to do a little resupply, grab some sub sandwiches and whatnot. I take my shoe off, and like already my sprained ankle is probably about twice the size of my other ankle. And I think in most circumstances, I guess in like a long distance backpacking context, what I would have done is probably just get a hotel room and just like take a 0 or take like a very short day. Just like, I'm just going to take a little bit of time off and I'll get back on trail. Obviously we're on time constraints, so I don't have that option. And this was basically my only situation if I needed help to get back to a safe place with a bed. It was now, or I was going to put myself into into a different predicament. Being older, knowing that we were trying to cover 40 miles over the next couple of days, and like with it already swelling up, it was a very difficult decision to make because it actually didn't hurt that bad, but visually it was starting to swell. It seemed like the right decision to get off trail. So that was the end of the hike for me at that point.
Yeah. It was funny because we were having the same conversation in different places. Like you were talking to my dad about it, and I was at the back of the truck talking to Elise, and I was like, I think I'm going to give him the option. Like, I didn't know if you wanted to ask, like, because you don't know them that well. So I was like, maybe he won't want to like ask to stay with them. So I was like, I'm going to give him the option. If he doesn't want to keep hiking, like he could always go back with them, hang out with them for the weekend. Like I'll see like, you know, what he thinks about that. And I turned around the truck to go like give you that option. You're like, hey, so I think I'm going to go home with your dad.
I haven't even talked to your dad, by the way.
No?
Yeah, I just invited myself at that point. But yeah, I knew. Yeah. And all that being said, I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but I think frankly I made the wrong decision because like I woke up the next day and my ankle felt totally fine. Like
Yeah.
I think I was being a little overly cautious there, but because I was worried about not having an easy way to get off the trail if it had ballooned up
Yeah.
overnight, it was just like I had to make a split decision, and I went with the safe one. And
Yeah.
you know, hindsight's always 20/20, but yeah, I genuinely could have done the miles and probably would have been fine. The thing that makes me feel semi-okay with it is because that is a rugged trail, I would have been at an elevated risk to sprain it again. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
maybe
Well,
would have done something bad to it.
If it
but
makes you feel better, I ate shit today. Like literally tripped, rolled my ankle, both knees to the ground, tripped. Elise was hiking right behind me. I was excited for like the shared like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I turn around like on the ground to see if she sees it. She's like putting sunscreen on the back of her neck. I was like, are you kidding? My leg was like
needed a witness
bleeding.
here. Yeah.
I was like, come on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
I
did
think
miss
I
that.
think I would second that it was a righter decision because like I had plenty of ankle rolls in
Sure.
the days to come, and if you roll it again, like who knows what that does.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was searching for reasons why that was the smart decision, but I could have hiked on it, and it's a bummer. But anyways, short version is I hung out with the Chaunceys for a couple days.
Wait, no. I think as we do the recap, like when we talk about our like day 3, day whatever,
Sure.
you talk about your like we'll recap
Okay.
our day, you recap your day.
Okay, fair.
So
We'll wrap up day 3 because you grab a 6-pack, we drink some beers, you pee on everyone's stuff.
Yeah.
well, hey, hold on,
Can't
hold
yada
on.
yada yada that.
And also, we had a great night, me and Elise. So
Sure.
let's not yada yada through it because me and Elise had a great night on trail.
Yeah, okay, I'm just yada yadaing to the point where we part ways.
Yeah, so we're about to part ways.
Chaunce did pee right outside her
The
dad's truck,
and apparently
then
it was a lot. It like went
it went all the way under the truck
To
to
the
the point
river.
where it like was.
came out the other
It
side.
may have gotten on my backpack.
Well, you're
It
welcome.
didn't, but it
You're
was
welcome.
like real close.
It was a healthy stream.
Yeah,
because I
she was
just ditched off
hydrated.
to go pee in the woods, and I came back, and like I got way too close to the scene of the crime because you didn't say anything. I'm like, what is? Oh my god!
DrinkLMNT.com/the trek.
Just trek.
Yeah, the thing to know, and this was true on the AT too, is like my dad's not a coddler, so happy and excited to help us on trail. But there was a part where we were just like hanging out in the car, like drinking beers, and finally he's like, Julia,
Yeah.
it's time to go.
Yeah. He goes, okay.
And he did the same thing
and
on
like
the
you looked
AT.
at him like you're like, what? I'm like, I think you gotta go. I think you're done. I think you've worn out your welcome here.
Yeah. Well, he did the same thing on the AT because we slack packed through the section that my parents used to live in, and he would pick us up and drop us off. And basically, like when we were finally to Bear Mountain, we had taken like 3 0 days because we were just not wanting to keep going. And he came into the room and he's like, I'm driving upstate to the farmhouse tomorrow morning, and you are either getting in the car and coming with me, or you're finding your own way to Bear Mountain. And I was like, fuck, okay, we're going. But same type of thing where he was like, all right, get out. So me and Elise started our night hike. I was fairly buzzed by that point.
Yeah, we had a couple of 16-ounces
Yeah.
and a couple at the restaurant.
I think it was a fun night hike. I think the highlight of it for me was we got to we passed the first site because we were like still toying with both options. I was very much not wanting to be the person where I was like, it's my way or the highway. I'm not flexible. So we had an option for going to Prosecco still, and we had an option for getting off early. And my mindset was, until we need to make the decision, let's not make the decision. Because I don't want us to make the decision because we feel a certain way now, and then maybe we don't feel that way when it's actually time to make the decision, and we've already made a decision, and then that introduces more like last minute change. Let's just hold off on making a decision, and go with what we're feeling each time. And so we had a campsite that we could have done that was literally on Lake Durant. It would have been a half a mile. And then there was one that was like 2.5 miles that was a shelter. And Elise had said, you know, if we are going to try to go to Prosecco, it's kind of like a no-brainer that we have to go to that shelter. And so we were like, okay, cool, let's go to this shelter. Buzz hiked for like 2.5 miles. It was
dark, all in the dark.
Yeah, it was Stevens Pond lean-to. No one was at it. And Elise had never slept in an East Coast shelter. So we had our first shelter night. I made us a little fire.
Nice.
The downside was that because there's so many people there that have fires, there was really no wood to collect.
Yeah.
So I got a small fire going, but it didn't last long, which was kind of perfect with us going to sleep. Like it went out as we went to sleep. Yeah. It was the right size. But we had a nice shelter time. You got to experience the shelter. Mm-hmm. We had a little fire. And then we were really excited when we got there. I think I screamed girls' night.
Yeah, I think you have it on video and we're doing a little dance.
Yeah, we're doing a little dance. We're like, girls' night.
It was nice because we could hang. I mean, I know this is normal shelter stuff, but like it's so nice to just be able to hang your shit from nails in the wall. Yeah. Like little luxuries are so wonderful. There's a privy at a lot of these shelters. That one in particular, like getting water there at night and going to the privy at night alone was creepy.
Yeah,
just because it was so dark. But I did both of those things and I survived.
It's funny you called it girls' night because I had done like the recap of me coming back here, and I said like, so I'm back at the Chaunce's, I hurt myself, the girls marched on, blah, 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 blah. I got a text from my wife like an hour later being like, I know you don't mean anything by it, but you probably shouldn't call them girls. Like apparently she took that as like a derogatory term. I'm like, I call my friends boys all the time. So I'm glad that you called it girls' night because
I think I get where she's coming from, and I think that was a very kind call out. But I wouldn't have taken it that way. I would think it would depend on your tone. Yeah, it depends for sure. Yeah. And I think it's a valid thing to be for her to be
Well, for anyone who's offended by it, know that I got reprimanded by my wife.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably, if Garrett was saying stuff that was like maybe questionable out of context, I'd probably also be like, hey, I don't know if you want to do that.
Yeah. And it's kind of like that, the way that guy said woman to me. Yeah. Like, we'll get into that, but it's like it could have been interpreted either way.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, day 4.
But we know your intent.
Oh, day 4. Yeah. I pooped for the first time.
Yay!
Yeah, I pooped in the privy.
Ring a bell? Ding,
yeah, ding, ding, ding. She did it.
Oh,
she
you got some chimes behind you. That's the official poop chime.
That's lovely.
I did it. That's it.
Okay. Nice.
It was in the privy.
Yeah, good.
That was like my 4th poop.
There was no toilet seat though. I really had hoped that I would poop at the
poop
the long lake island
Catlin
privy
Bay or whatever.
Because there was a giant graffiti in the back of the privy that said,
"Beware of the poop goblin."
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
I did poop there.
I pooped there too.
Nice.
After you all left that morning, and then I had to spend some time trying to catch up to you.
Chaunce pooped. So what's next? Walk me through your day.
Okay, first thing, one of the things I really liked about this trail being slow moving is I felt like it was the great equalizer. Like usually I'm the slow one, and like I was doing things that I do on trails normally to try to compensate for my slow pace. Like I will eat breakfast while walking, and I call it the morning mosey. And it's because I'm not hiking. I'm moseying. I'm going at a slow pace. I'm eating. I don't want to feel rushed. And if I leave at the same time everyone leaves, I'm either falling drastically behind or I'm not getting my mosey in because I'm trying to keep up.
Yeah.
And so you guys are getting ready to go meet the poop goblin. And I'm like, I'm going to go start hiking because I know you'll catch me. And I need to get my mosey in because that's what warms me up.
Every time you had the opportunity to hike out first, you were on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally like a reflux, like it's like a fear. Like I need to do it to make sure that I don't ruin other people's times. But it was nice because I was like, every time we're hiking together, like we're going at my pace. Even when I'm not in front, we're going at my pace. This rocks. So I kind of loved that. But yeah, day 3, 4 is this Saturday? This is Saturday now.
Yeah.
So we leave Stevens Pond.
We got to Wakely Pond that day.
I do have one more story. I did share this at dinner, but I'll just be quick with it because I thought it was funny. This is like a very characteristic moment for your dad, Steve Chaunce. Very funny guy. Had fun time hanging out with him. But we come back he went to Syracuse. He's a big Syracuse fan. We're watching the game. He had like broken out in hives because he had eaten some shellfish. So when we got back here, he had a couple Benadryl, and I turned down. It was 10 o'clock. I was tired, and I could tell he turned the TV down. Like he stopped chattering, and I just assumed that he had gone to bed because he had Benadryl. Like that knocks me out every single time. And like as I'm about to fall asleep, in the background I hear, "Fuck!" Apparently Syracuse had lost on like the last second field goal in that game.
Field goal?
Yeah.
Was it football?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Syracuse football game. It was just funny. That was the last thing I heard before I went to bed was your dad screaming, "Fuck."
Boys' night.
Yeah. Okay, continue.
Yeah. We got to Wakely Pond.
Which is, we had a little break there where I ate my gas station sandwich.
Yep.
And
I was having horrible acid reflux from my gas station sandwich, so I
yikes.
actually didn't continue eating it, and I had taken out my dinners because that was going to be my dinners.
Did Elise get it at least?
What?
The sandwich?
No, she didn't want it. I wasn't gonna get acid reflux from my sandwich and then be like, "Hey, Elise, you want this sandwich?"
I probably would have eaten it.
I was already afraid of my sandwich, so
yeah, my meals on these past 2 days have been John Z deficit level. I think I had. Well, we'll get to the dinners. And
I
stuff.
ate good on this trail. Oh, we should talk about how my resupply was the cost of both of yours combined.
Oh yeah, when we first resupplied at the start of the trail, me and Zach got to the cash register at the same time, and Elise hadn't gotten there yet. And last minute, we had the thought of, let's see who has the cheapest resupply. Cheapest resupply wins.
Yeah.
And so Zach goes, and yours was
like 65 something.
Yeah, mine was like $40.
Yeah.
Because I bought trash.
Yeah.
And then Elise comes through.
Mine was over 100.
Hers was like $103, and we start shitting on her, and she goes, "Well, I had to get baby wipes."
They were like $3, but I did have the smart water bottles, which were like 10. So let's say my resupply was like 85.
Yeah.
Math says 90.
Probably more like 90, because it was a little over 100. And I was like, wow, I was really self-conscious about it because I was like, am I really? I thought I was overbuying food. I was like, I for sure just bought too much food. And like Josh always says my resupplies are really expensive too. He like doesn't understand it, and I think it's a combo of two things, and also a good context if you ever like watch my videos about how much money I spend on trails. But I think I buy like some stuff that's not complete trash. No, like that sounds.
Say what you mean.
That sounds condescending.
Say what you mean.
No, it's good to not have a resupply that's pure junk
I
food.
bought like a cucumber. I bought some like banana chips. I bought like banana chips and like granola were my breakfasts and breakfast essentials, and those I think tend to add up a little bit. But then also I think I genuinely ate more because I ate all my food.
You guys kind of just sound jealous that you didn't win cheapest resupply.
No, you're right. You're so right. I told you I was self-conscious.
I got ramens for dinner. I got
Chaunce eats like a little bird on trail. She literally like, we didn't have Ziploc bags, so she was packaging everything in saran wrap. It's just like these little little bundles of food that she's like pecking at.
Parachutes that just drop down. little pouches.
It's like if you picture like a little bird with like a little like I don't know why this is so funny to me all of a sudden.
It is really accurate.
But like, you know those little bundles that like get carried on sticks?
Or like in Hunger Games where you hear the ding ding and then like the little package just like drops from the sky.
I know it's been a long time since I watched Hunger Games.
Wow, okay, judging you.
But yeah, it's like her just like little saran wrapped little snackies.
They were in serving sizes. I wanted it to be like, if I sit down and I open this, I want to be able to eat it and put it away, and that's done. And then I'll open another one because I like when I do a resupply, I like to structure it so that I don't overpack food, because I overpack food out of fear and I never eat everything I pack. So I will pack a breakfast, I will pack a snack, I will pack a lunch, I will pack a snack 2, a dinner, and a dessert snack if it's a longer trail, but usually a second snack. So whenever I lay out my resupply, I lay out things for that category: breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack. And then I would section out things like peanut M&Ms so that I would know, okay, this is one snack, this is one snack, this is one snack. And
I mean, like, that's normal. Like, it's just, I think it was the portions. Like, when I looked at her full resupply, like, laid out on the floor, it looked like a preschooler's lunch.
Well, I mean, I did have a Pop-Tart for dinner last night because I couldn't eat my sandwich. And then the night before that, when I couldn't eat my sandwich, I just went to bed.
Yeah, like, and then, like, whenever I was like, I'm kind of hungry, she'd just, like, offer me snacks. Like, I ate all my food and I ate some of Chaunce's food.
Even better today when we got to that river and we were like, okay, I guess, like, let's eat as much of our food as we can because, like, we're almost done after this. I hadn't eaten breakfast or anything up until that point that day. I just, like, I hadn't wanted to stop yet. Anywho, we get to Wakely Pond. There's a very cute frog in the water. He was a little guy and he was just sitting with us the whole time, which was nice. And we saw a salamander.
Decent water on this trail. Speaking of, like, there's enough flowing water, but you might want to just, like, monitor so you don't end up having to collect from the ponds and lakes because they're like kind of swampy.
I would avoid ponds and lakes. If you're using something like Onyx for your GPS, if you zoom in, there's gonna be things that look like water, like there'll be streams you'll see that are like the blue lines. What I learned is if you zoom in a certain amount, sometimes they'll say a name like Cedar River or Indian River or Browns Brook, right? Sometimes you'll zoom in and they won't have a name. Any of the ones that didn't have a name were not great water sources. It was like stagnant water, slow trickles, nothing to fill. But anything with a name I started to pick up on had good water.
At this point in the season.
Those
ones were probably like seasonal streams would be my guess.
A safe bet, and this is what I did last night when we were looking at, like when I sent you that photo for this morning, was last night I had gone through and I had gone through the stretch that we were going to do today, and I had gone super zoomed in, and every time there was a river that I saw across the trail that had a name, I was marking the mileage down. And so whenever I needed water today, I would look at where the next like place that I marked the mileage down for a named water crossing, and that was where I got water instead of relying on any of the ponds or anything like that. And I think that was like highly effective. I just wish I knew it from the start.
I thought the water was plentiful enough that I mean, there's times where you have to go a little bit, but I thought there was running water. Even being late in the season and being a dry year, I thought the water situation was very nice.
There was no part of the trail that I carried more than a liter, and there was most of the trail I only carried half a liter. Because usually like I would fill a liter, and then for most of it I would be drinking that, and then when I would get down to like about a quarter liter, easily took me to the next spot. Water was not an issue. But we get to Wakely Pond and
walked all along that road for a little while.
It combines
beautiful foliage.
It combines with a road. The Wakely Pond hand launch, like boat ramp, is there, and there's also like some campsites, and you follow this dirt road for a bit and you get to Moose what was it called? Moose River Plains campsites. And this is like an established campground. Like there is a like ranger station.
There was like car
campground
campers there.
Host. Yeah, it is like an established campground, which was kind of cool to see.
NPT Trail Magic.
That'd be a great spot.
However,
you wouldn't have many visitors.
Yeah.
It'd be for you.
It'd be a solo party probably.
But the cool part about that stretch is now we're getting to what looks like a lake, certainly the size of other lakes along the trail, but this was called Cedar River Flow, and I guess just like the river got fat and flowed for a while.
There was a dam, so I think maybe it still is a dam, but it looked very dilapidated and like
it's called
Wakely
definitely
Dam. Not maintained. So I wonder if that's what created
maybe
the flow. But
cool views though. And then from there
we're night hiking again.
We had lunch at Carrie Lean-To, and then from Carrie Lean-To
well, you had lunch because I ate my gas station sandwich earlier.
Yeah, that's true.
Chaunce and I have hiked enough together at this point now that I think we've figured out that like Chaunce can wait until 2 p.m. to eat her little bird snacks.
I like to take my lunch after I'm more than halfway
I get
through
that.
the day.
No, I totally get that from a mental perspective. However,
Elise is a noon sharp girl. Elise needs her lunch
my stomach
at noon.
is growling.
Elise is like there's a timer in Elise's head that says it's lunchtime. It's noon. And like it doesn't matter how many miles you've done, it's lunchtime.
And so I've learned that I have to just
Yeah.
eat at that point. And we don't have to take like a sit down lunch break. I'll take that at 2. That's fine.
No,
but I do need to eat my lunch at
I
that
think we
point.
found our flow where like we were going towards the end, we were cruising a bit, and it was because we were going about 4 miles in between break spots. Like we would section out the day where it was like 4 miles break, 4 miles lunch, 4 miles break, 4 miles break, whatever. And sometimes Elise would be like, I'm ready for lunch. And I'd be like, okay, I'm going to keep hiking a bit. I'll get to the next 4 mile break before you if you stay and you eat. But because I'm going to eat there, you'll get to me, and then I'll have my longer break where I want to, and you'll have your short break there, and I'll have my short break here, and you'll have your lunch here. And like it's just like a rhythm that I think worked really well.
Us. Yeah.
But yeah, so we did that. I'm just following my little waypoints.
It got, I feel like the next thing I like that really stood out to me was that we were night hiking a little bit again, and it was quite dark again. And it was it wasn't the roughest section of trail, but it was a rougher one. I nailed my shit on a few logs and was a little cranky from that.
Yeah, we ended up camping at 61.1, which was just like a tent site, like not a great tent site. There really weren't a lot of flat spots, but the Cedar Lakes number 3 lean-to that was our end goal for the day, it just mileage wise made the most sense, was a good 0.4 off trail. And it was right on the lake, so I'm sure it would have been really, really pretty. But we were like, do we really want to add 0.4 tonight? And then do we really want to add 0.4 tomorrow when we're trying to get back and like do this today?
Plus it was dark already, so it's not like we were going to be hanging out for that long.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there were people in that campsite, but they were nice.
Yeah.
I was just like, do you care if we won't, set up as your straight up next door neighbor, but do you care if we share with you? And they were like, yeah, we don't mind, but it was hard to find a spot, and it was probably the roughest actual camp spot we had on the trail. Definitely not the worst campsite I've ever had by any means, but it was harder to find a spot that wasn't rooted or
I talked
rocky.
to them this morning, and they were really nice, but last night I hadn't really talked to them too much, and we were like, oh, do you mind if we set up here? And they're like, yeah, well, there's not really that many spots. We kind of already looked around everywhere. There's not really any good spots. Like in my mind, again, this is like at the end of a hiking day. In my mind, I was like, I don't think you get it. Like, this isn't a question. I'm not asking if you mind because I'm actually concerned if you mind. I'm camping here. Yeah. Well, it's just like I'm saying this to be polite. And so then they were going through the like, I don't know. We've already looked at everything. We don't like. They were just after talking to them this morning. I realized just being nice and being like, hey, like we don't know if you'll find a good spot. And my response was like, okay, cool. Like we'll take a look and like see what we can find. Because I'm like, no, like you're not like. Realistically, you're not telling me no, right? Yeah. Like, it's not your campsite. It's not your tent area. There's plenty of places that we could find and make a spot. And just because you already have a fire going, like, doesn't make it yours. Yeah. And it's dark out. It's nighttime. Like, we're not going to hike an extra half mile tonight just because, like, you say this spot's full.
Yeah. See, and I couldn't tell at that moment if they were being cagey, like they didn't want us to camp there, or if they were genuinely trying to be, like... there's not really any good spots. And when I looked around, I was like, I thought 2 things. 1, they are correct. There aren't really any good spots. 2, if they do mind, we're going to be probably far enough away that honestly, I don't care. And we'll be here for, our overlap is going to be short. And to your point, it's not their, they don't own the spot. Yeah. You can be polite, obviously, but like if there's room, you can take it. And 3rd, I was like, they also might not know what our context is in the sense that we've both hiked a lot and we've had way worse.
Yeah.
So to them, like, it might be like, oh, there's nothing here, where we're like, oh, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And not saying that. Yeah. It's just sometimes you're when you've done worse, you're willing to deal with worse.
Yeah. And something I default to sometimes at work with sales when like someone's not giving you an answer you want, but there's a conversation to be had, or like maybe like it's not necessarily what's implied or meant, is like I've found it successful. Make this like it might be good or bad, but I found it successful to sometimes say things in a tone that maybe like they would interpret as I'm just not getting what they're saying, you know? So when they're like, I don't know, we already checked, like there's not really any good spots. Like my brain tells me like there's a chance that what they're saying is no. My response is, oh, okay, well, we'll just look anyway. Like, yeah, maybe we'll find something. I don't know. Like, I'm not telling you that I understand you're saying no. I'm just ignoring that part, right? And like, I'm gonna respond because no one's gonna be like, no, you don't get what I'm saying. I'm saying no.
Yeah.
So that was kind of where I went at it from. And this morning they were so nice. They were excited about what we were doing. They were like, we're so sorry if like we woke you up this morning.
They did wake me up, by the way.
Did they?
Yeah, dude, they were. This was what I was telling you about. So this morning, and this is no shade to them, it was like right around when we were gonna wake up anyway. But they were, I think, trying to get into their bear can, and it sounded like an animal was trying to get into their bear can, and it was like on and on. It sounded like something was just kept repeatedly like pawing at it, to the point where I was like, oh my God, do I need to get up and like go get their bear can? And because I was like, I don't know what else that noise could be. I was like, it's either that or they're like somebody's banging pots and pans.
Yeah. For anyone who struggles opening a bear can, I struggled in the beginning too. Get something that you can push against the part that sticks
it wasn't
out.
a BV500. I looked at it the night before. It was those other ones that have like the little you need the quarters.
Mm-hmm.
I
think
was gonna say get a coin because with the BV500s I push a coin down.
Yeah. So either way a coin works, I guess. But sorry to interrupt.
Coin. No, that's fine.
But yeah, it was the black one that has like the metal lid, and then I like looked at my clock to see what time, because it's so dark. Even like right before sunset, it was like 5:50,
and it was cold, and it was we were the wettest that morning.
Yeah, and then when I realized it was 5:50, I was like, oh, that's them in their bear can. Like, I just.
Well, before we go into the morning, that's our Saturday recap. Zach, let's hear your Saturday recap.
Saturday started off. Sarah got us some delicious breakfast sandos from the farm store.
Yep.
I'm not exaggerating when I say this. It was much better than even the sandwich that we had in the city.
Yeah.
Like a hot sauce sandwich. Ooh, fucking awesome.
You should try the burritos. We can get them on the way tomorrow.
I think we might have to.
You want to get burritos in the morning?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have really good burritos. Garrett loves them.
Do they have cold brew?
Yeah, I think so.
That little farm store.
They have everything.
Great.
They have smoothies.
Yeah. Then your pops and I, we just sat out on chairs by the lake and just chatted up. I learned about the Rumsey nerve.
Yep.
Learned a lot about Chaunce and the whole family history. Your dad's a wealth of knowledge. Then we went into Northville. I got the full tour. I got my picture under the southern terminus. Went to every shop that exists in town, which is not that many. We went to a few different antique stores. I got something for the boys. I got something for Jenna. Then we came back here. We kayaked.
You went to the school.
Almost forgot about the school. Thank you for correcting me. I went to the school. I got to see where your mom operates. I got to see the abstract painting of us that was hanging in her office. Very cool. Saw your book in the little store there. Yeah, Northville's a cute little town. Came back to the house. We kayaked out to the little island, the closer island, because they were running short on time. They were going to the girls' soccer game here in town, the boys' soccer game.
Oh, I didn't know you actually went to the game.
I didn't go to the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I used that as an opportunity to catch up on some work. They went to the game. But yeah, we had a dinner. Your dad grilled some venison burgers, and yeah, we just chatted it up. It was very pleasant.
Yeah. Did you play cornhole, or was that today?
Cornhole was a Sunday activity,
okay,
so I'll get to it
later
when the time comes.
Yeah. Hard day for Zach.
Yeah. I honestly, I was a little bit bummed because I'm like, I could have hiked, but I had a nice, honestly, looking at it from a different perspective, I wouldn't have been able to see much of the town without this version of it. So I like to learn about the culture of the area too. And I definitely got the superior version of it from that.
Well, did you notice all the few stores that there are in Northville, they all have like that black and white newspaper kind of clipping thing taped to the front of the windows, and it has the history of that store.
I didn't see that.
Oh, in each storefront there's like a clip, and it's like, this store was founded by so and so in 1838 or like whatever, and it tells the history of what that store used to be.
Yeah, a lot of history here. But no, it was cool to see the town.
Yeah. Okay, Sunday. That's today.
Well, yeah, we heard how I woke up, which again, those people were very nice. I'm not trying to be shady.
No, they were nice when we talked to them.
Definitely struggled to open that bear can this morning.
I didn't hear any of that.
Yeah.
I had set a bunch of alarms.
It was very wet.
I-
Lots of condensation this morning.
I told Elise I'll set my alarms for 6:15, 6:30, 6:45, 7, and 7:15. And the reason I do that is 6:15 gets you awake and it tells you, hey, you got to wake up soon. I hate to break it to you. Then you can like X that one out. 6:30 is the, okay, for real though, this is like snooze is over. You got to get up. And so then you like lay there. You do that thing where you lay there in your quilt and you just think about the fact that you have to get out of it for a bit. And you're like kind of like coming to acceptance and like terms with reality where it's like, okay, I actually do need to leave this. Sometimes that also 15-minute window includes like getting some little like bird crumbs out of your food bag and like starting to nibble, but like definitely just
a few seeds.
Still in sleeping bag. 6:45 alarm goes off. That tells you, okay, you need to start getting ready. So that means putting on your new socks, putting on like, you know, your outfit for the day, getting all the things taken care of inside the tent, pushing the sleeping bag into the backpack, putting all your little things that are around into their places. And then the 7 o'clock alarm says, hey, get out of the tent. It's time to put the tent away. So all of these alarms have purpose. And then if you follow all these alarms, you should be walking by 7:15. We were walking by 7:15. The problem was none of my middle alarms went off because they were all weekday alarms and I didn't realize. And so I'm laying there in my sleeping bag doing the like 15 minutes of dread as scheduled. And like the dread never ends. And I'm like, when do I stop? Like, I have to keep going. Like my eyes are starting to doze off again. And I checked my thing and I was like, oh no. My warning alarms had not gone off. So that was a start to my day, but nonetheless, we persisted.
You guys got out of camp on time though?
We were walking at 7:15.
Nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, like knock a lot of alarms, but when each of them have a purpose and they segment different parts of
Yeah.
the morning, when you hate
You
mornings.
wake up in stages.
Yeah, and you know what you have to do during that 15-minute window.
Sure.
And to have a 15-minute window where what you have to do is say, and go back to
Yeah.
sleep, that's nice.
Does Elise hit snooze? She doesn't strike me as a snooze
Oh.
person.
She didn't
Yeah.
set her alarms.
Okay, wait, what?
You said you didn't set
that was
them.
the first night. So when we slept in the lean-to, Chaunce had verbalized to me that she was setting alarms. We were sleeping right next to each other in the lean-to. What I should have verbalized back
Elise
is,
did not
okay,
verbalize this.
sweet, I'm going to turn off my phone then.
She didn't tell me.
I didn't say anything, and I did just turn off my phone, and that's on me.
So my alarms went off, and I roll over, and Elise is sleeping like a sweet little cherub, and I'm like, I can't wake her.
I sleep with my mouth
And so
open.
I snoozed my alarm again. I was like, we'll do a second morning snooze. And then that 15 minutes passes and I roll over and she's still just like out. I'm like, all right, I'll give her another 15. Snoozed it again. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Like pack up all my stuff right now and be like, hey, Elise, wake up. I'm leaving. No.
I figured you would like shake me awake.
You look so peaceful. So we had a good sleep in the second morning. We slept until 8.
It was worth it.
Yeah, it was great.
But the second morning I did set my alarms and I do snooze. I'm a bad snoozer.
Yeah. You strike me as someone who's so together that you're like, the alarm goes off. You're like, oh,
that's
ready to start the day.
That's absolutely an illusion. But I'm flattered that you think that about me. I will like, so our plan was to leave by 7, which we knew meant 7:15.
Yeah.
But I can't know that. I'm like, no, it's 7.
Yeah.
So I had an alarm.
I have to lie
for
to Chaunce about times on stuff, which makes me.
I lie to myself.
Yeah.
I was like, Elise, if we say we're leaving by 7,
was
we'll
like-
get out by
Yeah.
7:15.
She was like,
Yeah.
that's the lie. She was like, you tell, okay, so 7:15, so 7. And I'm like, no, you can't like verbalize that part because then I'm going to know
Right.
7:15 and then it's going to be 7:30.
Totally.
But luckily I didn't internalize that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I had an alarm set for like 5:55 or something. So that because that's my like open your eyes alarm, and then I can snooze, and then I just like 6-ish because I can't pack up as fast as Chaunce because
In that case, we're leaving at 7:45 tomorrow morning.
Yeah, no, that's exactly, yes.
Okay.
Which we might have to do anyway if we're going to add in burritos.
Yeah. Fair.
yeah.
Yeah. And we
But
should add in burritos.
but I'll
They're
know
so good.
if I have the motivation of burritos and cold brew, like I'll be ready.
Totally.
Yeah.
But I do
Cool,
I
you can
tend to
wake me
snooze.
Yeah. Okay. You guys get out of camp after alarm mishap.
Yeah, the first, it's pretty like overgrown and like muddy and blowdowns for a little bit, and then it kind of clears up. It's kind of fine. I was on my phone like I think like journaling, or I think I just like write down ideas that come to me in my notes app or I'll journal so I remember parts of the trail and stuff. And I came across our first person of the day, which, by the way, these last 2 days we saw more people by far than the first 3, and a lot in the last day.
Not to cut you off, but every single day on this trail, I had my Bills hat on. Every single day on the trail, more than 50% of the people I saw gave a hearty go Bills, and that was great. I had one person apologize for being an Eagles fan, and I was like, don't worry.
And granted, we say, like, she says 50%, probably 2 people. I say all the people we saw on the last day was more than the rest of the trail. We probably saw 5 people today.
I think we saw 6, yeah.
Yeah, 5 or 6. But the first guy I saw was nice enough to warn me about like a very boggy section coming up, and he was right. It was very boggy and, you know, required full attention. But he made like this offhand comment of like, you might want to get off your phone. And and I don't think, I still don't know if he meant it in that way.
At least you're giving him too much credit there. That's not a nice thing to say.
Just wait till all the optimism I give all these people.
Yeah.
At least had a lot of encounters.
I had a lot of weird encounters today. And that was, we didn't even talk about the day before someone.
The sir.
The sir.
I'm getting flashbacks to when the New York penis happened, and she's like, was it my fault that...
Oh my God, yeah.
No. We haven't even talked about that. But yeah, he, and I was like, okay, first of all, there's no service back there. So I don't know what he thought I was doing in order to say that. But like, I was literally just writing on my notes app. And then also, I'm going to be able to tell I need to get off my phone. Like, what? That's not necessary. Anyway, I do get to that point. Chaunce is waiting for me because it's quite, it was quite something.
It was basically, it was the only area we've come to so far going south where the beaver,
it had flooded the trail.
Stuff had flooded the trail, and so there was a reroute, which was also kind of crazy because it looked like someone just took a chainsaw and literally just sliced all the trees to like make the reroute.
Yeah.
Like all those, you know, those thin little like trees that made it super thick and overgrown, just had zzz.
And it was effective.
Yeah, it was great. But then there was parts that were like wet, and like you had to walk over the logs and like climb over
big
a rock.
rocks.
And it was fun, and it was nice because it was only like a mile tops. And it was nice because we hadn't done like 5 days of nothing but that.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, cool, we'll do this for a little bit.
Kind of a jungle Jimmy, like more than the other rocky, boggy stuff, because it was like you could touch with your hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like maybe I know that I intentionally try to not talk to people while I'm hiking because I'm usually tired. But I don't know what it is that like makes other people so much more approachable than me, because Elise has all these stories and like I had none of them.
Well,
but say the third one.
Every single one of them was like, "Is that your friend up there?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And then they'd start asking me questions. So I like I'm like, did they talk to her? Did they just wonder about her? And now they're like, okay,
nope.
Now I'm gonna get answers.
Nope.
Because I mean, also I'm just to be like a fact of this trail is like I maybe saw like 2 other women besides Chaunce and I. One of them was the lady we shared who was at the campsite the last night. And then there was a group of 3 coming towards us on day 3. And that's the man who said, "Hello, sir," to me.
Yeah, a guy looks at Elise and goes, "Hello, sir."
He goes, "Hello, sir," very loudly. And he was with 2 women too. And I just like, I was like, I wasn't that far away. Like I could see that he was with 2 people that I, you know, were femme presenting and a dog, and like
he wanted to make it very clear to his wife that he wasn't flirting with you.
I don't know, and it's just like he could have just said hello. He rounded the corner, which it was like one of those areas where like the trees were not thick, so it was like you could see from far away, and there was no branches on the lower parts of the trees, so there was a corner in the trail technically, but it's not like it was blocking anything visually. And he gets like within 10 feet. He's like, "Oh, not sir." And I was just like,
"Not sir" would be a good trail name.
Yeah, not sir would be a good trail name.
And I was like, "No worries." And he was like, "I'm sorry. I just wanted to like say something so you knew we were here." And I was like, obvious, like there was no mistaking there were people coming towards me. But I also it was kind. I think that one genuinely was a mistake and came from a kind place. And I felt bad that he probably felt bad.
We did see another girl today, the one that I turned around and I was like, "She smells good."
Oh,
remember
you're
the
right.
one that we could
yeah.
smell?
Yeah, she smelled good.
No, but I'm thinking, I'm like going through my head, like, how did all these people talk to Elise and not me? And I'm thinking about the encounters I had, and like my classic is just the how's it going? And you say it in a way where it's like, that's the combo.
Yeah.
But then
you also keep walking. You don't stop.
Well,
Like I usually stop, and I think that's part of it. And also, I did not wear earbuds for this.
I only had one in at a time because if you carry AirPods, pro tip, if you only use one earbud at a time, the other one's charging while one's in your ear. So instead of your headphones just dying, when one dies, you switch it with the other. So pro tip there. But I was thinking about one encounter I had where it was like actually like attempting a conversation and just like my like hiking brain answer. The guy started laughing because we go to pass. I go, how is it going? He goes, good. How are you? I was like, good. He goes, where are you headed to? And I like, I don't think to do this stuff and like close off a conversation this way, but I just go that way. And he started cracking up, and I'm like, that's the way I'm going. But those were my encounters, like short and sweet like that. Where it's like, where are you going? That way.
Yeah.
Or I had one that this morning was like, oh, where'd you come from? And I assume he meant in retrospect probably like today. Where did I come from?
That's why I was
like Lake Placid, and he again just started laughing, and I was like, missed the point of your question there, I guess.
Was that the last guy that he had a hyperlate?
I have no idea. I didn't wear
I think
glasses.
that's what I think I watched. Well, and then I think the guy who called me sir said he didn't have his glasses on or something. So
yeah.
I know. I don't know what it is. I also have like the short interactions too. I don't chat with everybody, but
yeah. Today was pretty breezy, and then you had one more encounter.
Oh yeah. So then just after that, there were these two guys who I honestly do think meant well. I'm assuming the best of intentions, obviously. And they were like, we had a good chat. We did one of those awkward things where like we kind of passed each other, but then we kept talking for a little while.
Then you have to stop.
And just like kept like looking back and like yelling. But they had asked what we were up to, and I said, oh, like I'm hiking, a good chunk of the Northville Placid Trail, but I'm getting off today. And I think they had also asked, like, is that your friend up there? Like, for some reason, everyone asked that. And I'm like, yeah.
So mysterious.
I wonder if it's just like at first they thought you were solo, and then they were just like very more confused by that. Then when they saw me, they were like, oh, I don't know. Anyway. So it was just, one of the guys had like an AT hang tag on his pack. So I asked him about that. And again, they were super nice. And, they were like, yeah, the rest of the trail is pretty much like smooth sailing. We're just going to Lake Durant. And they said, yeah, we're just filling in this section because when we did this before, we were with a woman and she got sick of it and had to get off and just wanted to get off.
And Elise missed the perfect comeback, which was, yeah, same thing happened to us on this trip with a man.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm still, again, I don't think he was saying like, oh, but she got off because she was a woman. But it could be interpreted that way, especially kind of with like the emphasis on it. But that being said, they were very kind and they were speaking with me. So I think that who was saying like I was doing the whole trail, or like most of the trail. So I don't think they meant it that way. Maybe it was subconscious. I don't know.
But yeah, so Elise had a lot of encounters today.
Yeah, and then the last guy was that was the last person we really talked to, was the hyperlake guy who was asking about, oh, you offered up the bog conditions. Yeah. And then
I was feeling chatty today.
Yeah.
I think I was just on a high.
Mm-hmm.
I felt great today. I felt like my legs didn't hurt, like I hadn't hiked at all. I was fresh on the trail, like my feet had no problems. I was trying topos for the first time on this trail. We'll get to that in the gear review section of the segments, but I was feeling like a 10. Zach, how was your Sunday?
Sunday, this was a sad Sunday for me. The highlight of the day ended up being a low light was watching the Bears game. Bears suck shit. We don't have to talk about it. Yeah, literally, I woke up, got a couple hours of work done, watched the Bears lose, and then got to hang out with you guys. Nothing much more to say about it.
This is the Zolio message I got from Zach this morning. I had sent him, let's see. You said, looks like 18.5 to go. I said, correct. My math earlier was wrong. I thought it was 16. But a good bit towards the end is downhill, which will be nice. You say, no rush. Steve and I will be crushing cream ales and watching ball.
Yeah, that's exactly how it worked.
Yeah.
We watched. I have Sunday tickets, so we were watching the Bears game on my laptop, sitting right next to each other on the couch, drinking cream ales. Yeah, we played some bags out front. I was a little bit worried because I had heard that he was just out here kicking ass with you guys like the month previous. But
So I think what that tells us though is that Zach and Garrett need to face off in bags.
I'm down. I'll take anyone on.
Yeah.
I did throw your dad through a loop because the way that I've always played is drink in hand, and he hadn't played that way. And the second that he put his beer down in the middle of the game, he started to make a comeback, and then he felt bad and he picked it back up. And then
So Zach was hazing my dad today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then we picked you up.
Now we're here.
Had some pizza, and we're here chatting about it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It was a good hike.
Yeah.
Ended at Prosecco, if anyone's curious.
Yeah. So I guess let's give that context. We ended at Prosecco, which is about mile 40. So we did you guys did all but 40 of the miles. I did about 40 less than that. And you've got 40 to clean up, which we'll do in a Patreon episode upcoming.
Yeah, and apparently it's supposed to be rainy, so yeah.
You'll get the true dose, I feel like, of that trail, because I think we lucked out on weather and like conditions, because I feel like most of what we did, especially like today, was totally dry.
So nice.
And
I don't need the true dose. I'm happy with the dose I was given.
Yeah.
I would like to continue this dosage.
Fair enough.
We'll wrap it with the Stay Salty question presented by Element. Use code drinklmnt.com/trek to get a free sample pack with any purchase. Here's a question. If you could turn any everyday activity into an Olympic sport, what would you win gold in?
Oh. What would I personally win gold in?
I'll start to give you guys time to think about it since I'm the one that invented the question.
I was expecting the hot take one.
Yeah, I wanted to veer a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
I am very good at eyeing up how many leftovers we have from our dinner and choosing the correct Tupperware size. So like I'm always filling it to the 80 to 90% mark. And the worst thing you can do is get something where you're only filling like 20% of it, because then you've got gigantic Tupperware in the fridge, and with 6 people in my house, it just gets very cumbersome very quickly. So I'm really good at eyeing up Tupperware leftovers.
That's a good one.
I don't really excel at anything.
It can be the most minute thing of all time. What about plants? House plants?
Not there. I went through the big phase when they were my coworkers. Now I live with other people. At least you go. Still thinking.
The first thing that's coming to mind for me, which I don't know if it's even accurate, is if I was in a step competition. Apparently I'm very, very competitive.
You are in a step competition.
In that, yeah,
and you're about to win gold.
And I'm very competitive. Yeah. I don't know if I have that same incentive though without being in the competition. Like it's not like I'm out here every single day getting.
I will say I've done several step competitions, not to the scale that you're doing.
We don't know. But
it's just very motivating. Like there have been plenty of times where I'm doing like a 1.5 mile walk at 11 p.m. just to get to my step.
Literally, I'm pacing around my house.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
It
I bought a
difference.
walking pad.
I'm toying with doing like a Trek sponsored step competition.
Should.
Yeah. Get me out of my desk. I'm not really good at anything. I don't wake up well. I stay up too late. Garrett cooks, so I don't really cook that much.
Your parents told me that you're a great cook. Your mom said that you made some Italian pasta dish one time and like you crushed it. She said one time you came back really late in the night and you made like some sort of stir fry or something. And
no recollection.
And then she's like, the smell in the house was magnificent.
Yeah, I'm sure all those things happened, but Garrett's the better cook and he's the more motivated cook. So I kind of just let him take the reins.
Chaunce
there.
wins the gold in humility, guys.
I'm good. I'm really good at doing a lot of things in a day. I'm really good at maxing out things I can fit into a day. Free time makes me anxious and I don't know what to do with downtime. So I'm very good at making sure that I never have any.
Productivity.
I would say you're also good at like hacks. You have like a billion hacks for yourself.
Like what?
I don't know. I can't think of any off the top of my head,
The
but I feel
several
like
alarms.
every time I talk to you, yeah, you have like systems for everything.
Oh, like my pack list.
Yes, exactly.
So I don't pack really that well. And it's usually like the night before a trip, it'll be 3 a.m. and I'm really stressed and like probably crying because I haven't packed enough and I like don't know what I'm forgetting and it really overwhelms me. And finally there was one time that I decided I can't live my life this way. It's too stressful. And so I typed up a list of everything I've ever needed to pack for a trip and categorized it, and I printed it out and laminated it and got dry erase markers, and now before a trip, I go through and I cross off all the things I don't need for that trip, and then I check them off every time I pack them. And then the back side of the laminate is a day-by-day like outfit, like day outfit, night outfit, so that when I go to pack the clothes so that I don't overpack them, when I pick an outfit, I write it down for the day that I want to wear it, and then I only pack those things. So I'm getting more efficient with the things that I struggle at by trying to find ways to help myself through it so I don't end up crying.
The golden systems.
Yeah.
I love it.
I bought a laminator and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
like, yeah.
If anyone needs anything laminated, let me know.
I use it I go to Kinko's for like trail days and stuff like that, so I might be hitting you up.
Yeah. I love putting things through a laminator. It's really soothing.
Sweet. That was a fun recap. Jump right into it. That was long-winded, so I'm going to skip the Trek propaganda, go to the website, read some articles. There's always good stuff. Question of the day. I like this one. Would you rather find the perfect stick or the perfect rock?
I think I'm going perfect rock.
Yeah, perfect rock, easy.
I was going to go rock also.
Round, smooth, flat rock.
Especially for skipping on a
nice
lake.
Pancake rock.
Yeah.
See, my head went to like, what is perfect rock?
Round, smooth, flat.
Maybe, but it also could be an arrowhead that's like ancient and cool.
It could be.
I'll count it. Sweet. Okay, this one is a little strange, but in the spirit of our odds and me leading us astray, this is the Triple Crown of John Travolta movies. So you guys might want to whip out your...
And this is in honor of Elise's incoming odds loss.
Yeah.
Where she has to yell John Travolta.
I'm going to get outed for all the movies I don't watch in this.
All right, who's starting?
I'll go first. This is a little bit cheating because we did a short version of this on trail, but Chaunce mentioned one that I have to absolutely have first, which is
come on.
Pulp Fiction.
You didn't even remember it on trail.
I know.
Yeah, so this is the walk back from the dirt road mishap.
Yeah.
We decided let's just try to name all the John Travolta movies we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. Pulp Fiction, you can't beat that. My first one I will take is going to be Grease. Zach's never seen it, apparently.
Nope.
That's very strange. No further comment.
You guys were taking a few of the ones that I thought were the only ones I saw, but thank God for Google, because I think I am going to take Austin Powers Goldmember.
Ooh, I didn't even know.
Who did he play?
I'd have to click on it.
Yeah.
Sure he's not a producer in that?
No. Hold on. Opening a new tab.
This is going
Deep,
well.
deep, boop, boop, ba.
We'll count it. Well, just for the sake of the segment, we're going to count it. We're going to count it.
Now, who's your next one?
It came up
Elise?
on Google. Oh, shoot. Hairspray.
Damn, that was my next one.
That's the only one that I expected to say.
Okay, if we're going in order of ones that we've watched, I had this on DVD once. I think it was in like a discount bin. The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. It is the original Bubble Boy. It's fantastic. He basically has like a plastic bubble maze in his house that he can like go outside while still being inside in, and like basically falls in love with the girl next door, and they're just like in love, but like plastic separates them. So that was great.
Next, I'm going to go with one that you guys probably haven't seen, and definitely not a movie people are going to think of when they think of John Travolta, but this is the one that I've seen the most. I'm sure I just rented it on VHS and watched it 100 times in a row, but the movie Broken Arrow. And the movie doesn't end, but one of the last scenes is John Travolta plays the bad guy, and there's a scene where an entire giant missile just comes at him and goes right through his chest cave, his torso, and that's how he dies. And it's a very iconic way for a bad guy to die.
Okay.
So I get two here, I guess.
Yeah, you do.
Quick update. John Travolta does play, he does a cameo of Goldmember at the end of the film.
Sweet. Perfect. Love that.
Okay.
Another one that is probably not his most popular movie, although I guess it's up there. Have you guys seen any of the Look Who's Talking movies?
No.
Mm-mm.
This is John Travolta and Kirstie Alley, and they have a kid. And all I remember is, I can't remember which of the movies it is, but the kid's potty training and he's afraid, and he starts to approach the toilet. He's afraid of going to the potty, and then the potty starts like talking to him, like the toilet seat starts lifting like it's a mouth.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and like water's like spilling out everywhere.
Yeah.
That's very strange.
Yeah, it's a very it's an unsettling scene, especially when you're a kid. But
Buried memory.
yeah, the Look Who's Talking series is excellent.
Okay. My last one, I haven't seen any of these other ones. There's a number of names that I recognize. Haven't seen them. But I'm going to go with, purely off of the cover of the movie and it just looking cool, is going to be Saturday Night Fever. Look at this cover.
Yeah, I think that is one of his more iconic films.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. But
That's where like I think you learn that Travolta was an excellent dancer. Grease too, but like yeah, he really showcases his disco
we'll have
stuff.
to watch that.
Yeah.
So my last one's going to be Ladder 49. That came out in the era when, if anybody remembers, I guess when Blockbuster was in its prime and you could do a membership where you could like rent 2 movies a week. And I think my mom was on a kick of renting all of the like Oscar nominees or something. And I just remember seeing a lot of heavy movies in that time frame. And I think Ladder 49 was one of them.
Nice.
I don't really remember much else about it.
I only have one honorable mention. I have to mention it. Is Swordfish, came out in 2001. I only mention it because you get to see Halle Berry's boobs, which is awesome.
I feel like I've seen that too.
Yeah. If you've seen Halle Berry's boobs, you don't forget it. It's like
Cool.
Christmas. All right.
I didn't know he was in Carrie. I'll just say that.
1 minute gear review. I think we're probably going to talk about the same thing here.
Yep.
And full disclosure, they are a sponsor of the podcast, not for this episode, but past and future. But just a very honest portrayal of the 60 miles that I did on this trail with very rugged terrain. Not a single time did I even think about my feet. Mm-hmm. My feet were pain-free, not a blister, not a hot spot, not anything. This was the first time I used the Pursuit 2s for any real distance
You
aside
haven't
from
said
like
the brand yet.
Oh, yeah, Topo Athletic.
Good
yeah,
job.
yeah, thank you. I used the Topo Athletic Pursuit 2s, and I heard really good things about them. One of the highest remarks is their durability, so 60 miles isn't exactly kicking the tires on that standpoint, but just from doing 3 days of backpacking in sweaty terrain, in conditions where you could easily develop hot spots just based on the fact that you're never really landing on a flat foot, my feet, I didn't think about my feet a single time. And usually when I'm backpacking, I take my shoes off at breaks. I only did that one time when we were at the lake. Otherwise, I left my shoes on. And yeah, my feet were very happy the entire time.
Yeah, mine's going to be also about Topos. I tried them for the first time on this trail. Again, got them because they're sponsoring. Are mine the Pursuits or the Pursuit 2s?
Pursuit 2.
Okay, yeah, so that's what I have. Things to note is I would size up a half size if you're like not entirely sure. At first I got the 6s and I'm usually a 6, but my toes were touching the tips, so I switched them out for a 6.5, and the 6.5 has been perfect. So that's just something to note if you are like borderline sizes. But same thing as Zach, like I mentioned it earlier in the episode, I really didn't think about my feet much. There was a time in every day where my foot would slip into water, like either mud, muck, water, something. Like my feet got wet. And I only brought 3 pairs of socks, so I did rewear a dirty pair of socks twice on 2 different days. So 2 pairs of dirty socks got reworn. And I only on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th day took off my shoes during lunch, and that was about it. I don't have a single blister. I didn't wear these shoes before the trail, so there was no breaking them in. I have the same experience with my ultras where I don't have really a break-in period with them either. And the feel wearing both of them feels very similar to me. 0 drop, wide toe box, very similar kind of feel on your foot. However, again, just like Zach, the main thing I've heard about the Topos is the durability. You can kind of tell from the shoe that they feel, what were you saying, like a little more tightly woven? What's the thing that you noticed?
The weave on the upper is more tightly woven compared to other brands.
Yeah.
So you should get more miles out of them.
Yeah, but I kicked a bunch of stuff. I got twigs that I would step on the wrong way, and I didn't have a single blister. I didn't get any hot spots from wearing the same socks twice, or even after they were wet and dried with mud. Really impressed with how they worked, and I think the main thing that I'm looking forward to with them is, I think the way for me that they're gonna stand out from ultras and like not be so similar in different ways is seeing how long they last.
Yeah.
And I think if they last the length that we've heard that they do, that is huge for saving money on a longer trip. But just really impressed with them. Really impressed having that been the first time that I've tried them out. And even today I told Elise, I was like, I'm shocked that I haven't thought about my feet at all during this.
Yeah.
So kudos to them.
This wasn't meant to be an ad, but if you guys want to save money on Topos, it's the code TheTrek15 for 15% off.
Yeah, I would have said all this even if they weren't sponsoring.
Yeah,
but
agreed. We've done the gear roundups before where we don't shout out sponsors, but
Yeah.
like legitimately, they did really well.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Cool.
I'm going to skip this next segment because it's getting late. You want to take the mailbag?
Hey all, I just finished watching Glow Sticks episode where you did the triple crown of movies you've cried to. Following Zach's dog theme, watch Hachi, A Dog's Tale, if you haven't already. You'll be sobbing by the end. I always am. It only gets sadder when you find out it's based on a real story in Japan. Anyway, I should be on the PCT next year, depending on my visa interview next month. Can't wait to get out there. Enjoy the podcast. Keep going, Mark. Thank you, Mark. I will not be watching any sad dog movies. I'm too soft and sensitive for that. But anyone who likes sad dog movies,
Yeah.
see a doctor.
Yeah. Sad dog movies are the worst, but it just makes you love your dog that much more when you watch a sad dog movie.
I saw a reel the other day that was like, it was like one of those white sandy beaches, and it was like a dog in the distance running towards you, and it was like when you finally get to see them again, was the caption. I started crying. I was sitting on the couch watching football, and Garrett looked over, and I'm crying, and he's like, "Why are you crying?" And I sent him that reel, and he was like, "Harper's sitting next to you." I can't. I have no stomach for it.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting to the end. I'm getting very sleepy.
Me too.
Yeah.
5-star review. This is from Mike. Scouts honor Mathias. Fun podcast. Great blend of backpacking insight and the fun culture that goes with it. Good times.
Yay.
Thank you, Mike. Very appreciative of you. If you want to hear your review read on this podcast, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us any number of stars, just not 1 through 4. Thank you to our title sponsor, LMNT. Again, we were sweating our asses off on this trail, and I drank 2 to 3 or 4 per day on trail. I was sucking those things down. I love
ran
them.
out.
Yeah. Especially good in backpacking trails where you're sweating a lot. It's good in every backpacking trip, but especially appreciative of them when you are losing a lot of salt via sweat. So yeah, they kick ass, and thank you to them for making this trip possible. Use URL drinklmnt.com/trek to get a free sample pack with any purchase at the website. Super big thank you to our Chuck Norris Award winners on Patreon. That is Alex and Misty with Navigators Crafting, Andrew, Austin McDaniel, Ben Love, Brad and Blair from 13 Adventures, Brent Stenberg, Brian Alsop,
Fables.
Christopher Marshburn, Coach from Marion Outdoors, Dane,
Ish.
Derek Cook, Eric Casper,
The Friendly Ghost.
Eric Hoffman, Jillian Daniels, Greg Knight, Greg McDaniel, Griffin, hey, would you bring me a beer? Haley Buckingham,
Palace.
Liz Seeger, Patrick Ciancialo, Rebecca Brave, Sawyer Products, Spam, Timothy Hahn,
Solo.
and Tracy Trigger. You still have it in you, even this late.
Yeah.
Nice. At Backpacker Radio on TikTok and Instagram, at Backpacker Pod on X, Facebook.com/Backpacker Radio. You can follow Elise.
At Elise.ott on Instagram, at EliseOtt on everything else.
You can follow Chaunce.
Juliana_Chauncey on Instagram, Juliana Chauncey on YouTube, and you can get my book Hiking from Home, a long distance hiking guide for family and friends on Amazon.
Appalachian Trials and Pacific Crest Trials are my books. If you could leave Chaunce and I some nice reviews on Amazon, that's very appreciative.
We would love that.
Subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on YouTube.
Hi, Internet.
And that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for joining us on the NPT. We'll have the final wrap up on Patreon here shortly. And happy hiking.
Bye.